Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the Ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
I've got a couple of country isms for you this morning, and the first one is never, do not corner something that you know is meaner than you. And secondarily, it doesn't take a very big person to carry a grudge. Nope. Good morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith, and God bless America, followed by a patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance. A wet Tuesday outside. Woo! Wow! Oh, God bless America, Kate Smith, and we really appreciate having her on the program this morning. Thank you, Kate. Come back again tomorrow if you can. Good morning, everybody. I'm Zeb Bell. Zeb at the Ranch with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And, of course, don't forget some of our great advertisers, including Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley. And our friends at Western Waste Services, get on the route service. Get rid of your garbage. Call them, 734-6969. And I understand something interesting happened this morning that we didn't have to worry about running out of gas. She had to be worried about where she put the oars in the boat. How you doing?
It is wet outside, isn't it? I could have rowed my way to work.
You row your boat gently down the stream.
Merrily. Okay,
life is a nightmare.
Exactly. I'm living somebody else's dream, that's for sure.
I'll tell you what, I didn't get my hay covered before the rain came. I know.
Soggy hay.
Yeah, really. And but we need the moisture. It's just unfortunate it's hitting the farmers at the wrong time, I think.
I know. Yeah. I was trying to warn everybody, hey, get that hay up.
But, you know, this is life. This is nature. This is what the magic in Magic Valley.
Is this the magic in the Magic Valley?
Oh, I'm just trying to be a salesman for the Chamber of Commerce.
There you go. You're doing a great job.
Yeah.
I hear you.
So how are you?
I'm doing well. It's a great day. It's Tuesday, and we've got a full slate ahead of us.
Okay, yes, we do. We have a full plate. Mm-hmm. And speaking of which, do we have a pledger?
We have Rotten on for the pledge and Mr. Michael Rogers on for the weather.
Very well done. Rotten, if you would, please. Go ahead.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
As usual.
Thank the good Lord for this rain.
Oh, yes, sir. And it's I'm thankful for having friends like you and your lovely wife. Thank you so much for calling in.
Okay.
God bless you, sir. Thanks. Hey, it's time for the weather, and we're going to find out how wet my hay is going to get. Here's MichaelRogersWeather.com, brought to you by Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Oh, my goodness, look for their blue door and the telephone number to call, 678-6945. Kyle and Whitney Cheney, really, really nice folks, and they can meet or beat any price on flooring, and they will provide you free in-house consultation to help with the beautification of your home. Check it out today. All the countertops, the Oakley stone, natural stone, carpet cabinets, everything right there at Cheney Flooring and Home Design. 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for the blue door. And right now, here is Michael Rogers Weather.
The Magic Valley of South Central Idaho is the only place in the United States that people appreciate rain. Got about a half inch on the ground right now, and you're going to get a little bit more. And it's going to continue through much of today and much of tonight. and going into tomorrow. Should taper off tomorrow night, but it seems like a lot, but there's really not a lot on the ground at this time. Half-inch on the ground at Twin Falls Airport. Half-inch on the ground on an acre of land is over 1,000 gallons of water. But then again, folks, we have the rain and the moisture. You're going to get some more of it for today, tonight, tomorrow, and tomorrow night. Daytime high is going to be even nicer because it's going to be on the cooler side. You're going to look at temperatures in the upper 70s and low 80s. So enjoy the weather. So, what do you got?
Thank you. MichaelRogersWeather.com, brought to you this hour by Cheney Flooring and Home Design, 1228 Oakley Avenue in Burley. Look for their blue door or give them a call at 678-6945. Really nice people. Oh, my goodness. Let's see. All kinds of things are going on. All the fairs. We've got all the advertising for the fairs. We've got everything to talk about today, and including our friends over at Daryl's Cleaners. You know, maybe you said to your wife, you know what, I need these jeans to go to the fair. Oh, my goodness, I threw them in the dirty clothes. Oh, well, hurry up, take them over to Daryl's Cleaners. Get them dry cleaned and get them pressed. And I'll tell you something, that dry cleaning actually prolongs the life of a garment. And I'll tell you, they do the best job. I know that for a fact because I've been taking all my clothes over there for a long, long time. All my shirts, all my Wranglers, everything at Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. You stop in and see the best people today, Daryl's Cleaners. Absolutely. Oh, and by the way, SafeLink Internet Services, you better check it out. Oh, my goodness, I am so happy with their service. And you will also thank me because of the way they provide their service in a very professional manner, making sure that you have the fastest and best Internet service available through SafeLink. You call them at 677-8000. That number again, 677-8000. SafeLink Internet Services, serving you. Really nice people. Very trusting. All right, give us a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I still apologize. Got a little bit of a strained throat yet this morning, and but it is getting better, slow but sure. And I want to take just a moment here and wish well a very, very dear friend of mine. And he had an accident yesterday, and it could have been a lot worse. Oh, it could have been tragic, but I think he's going to be all right. George Mass, one of my dearest friends, suffered a severely cut arm, and he is going to be okay. He's got to take it a little easy for about 30 days, but we want to extend to him the very best from Zeb at the Ranch. And be careful out there, George, please. And also, a thank you this morning again to Paul Peterson. He is an excellent cartoonist, and he made up a couple of books now of Zeb at the Ranch cartoons, and I just treasure those. I absolutely treasure those, Paul. Thank you so much. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb.
Yes, sir.
I just couldn't help but make a comment. You know, the climate change, global warming crowd, they show their ignorance every time they open their mouth or write a letter. And, you know, it just goes on and on and on. In that, if you... They just always spout about 95% of the scientists are supposed to be on board that climate change is caused by man.
Right.
When it's about 0.5% maybe, it's 95% of a very select few of people, scientists that have been bought off.
Well, what you said is in regards to a letter this morning from a Judy Weiss from back in Brookline, Massachusetts, that was in the Times News. And I want to read that paragraph to everybody. She said, now we have scientists explaining with pretty high levels of certainty, 95%, that the climate is warming due to human use of fossil fuels. Well, first of all, this is a lie. This is a fraudulent number. This is absolutely untrue because 95% of scientists connected with climate change have not said this. What Adrian said is exactly the truth. The small percentage of scientists, and by the way, their numbers are dwindling, that think that man is causing through fossil fuel use climate change, it might be 95% of maybe 10 people, but I'll guarantee you it's not 95% of all the scientists. Adrian, is that what you're trying to say?
Absolutely. There's over 31,000 U.S. scientists, and a lot of international scientists on board as well that know that the amount of CO2 is not causing. We had major warm-up periods before we ever had any fossil fuel use at all, and so forth. And so, I mean, it's just ludicrous, but to think that 4 parts in 10,000 is causing all the climate change. My personal feeling is God will not be mocked, and we are mocking God every day by our actions in this country as a group, not individually. But so we see fires and floods, all kinds of strange weather going on. But that's exactly what George Mason said would happen when we quit worshiping Jesus Christ as the Lord of the land.
That's right. No, I couldn't agree with you more, and I'm glad you brought that letter up because I was going to comment on it later on anyway. I'm sick and tired of these phonies and these people that absolutely mislead people on the facts. And thank you very much, Adrian. Appreciate it.
And look at yesterday, I think it's yesterday's letter or Sunday's paper, where a letter from New Jersey commenting about our wolf situation. The otter was, and our people out here don't know what we're talking about. I dare to just put some of those wolves back there where they could get up close and personal look at those 200-pound killers and really realize what we're up against out here.
I couldn't agree more. Hey, stay tuned. I think I'm going to be talking about something you might want to weigh in on. Thanks, Adrian. God bless you. Appreciate your call.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Bye now.
Don't forget Sophie's Chatterbox. Oh, my. This is a great place, and they make some absolutely fantastic cinnamon rolls. Make wedding cakes, cookie bars, homemade bread, delicious cinnamon rolls, and they're open for breakfast from 6 in the morning until 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, Saturdays and Sundays 6 to 2. Sophie's Chatterbox, right there on the square in Rupert. You're going to love this place. Really good folks, 530 East Street on the square in Rupert. Remember Sophie's Chatterbox. It's good. And don't forget, too, Ramsey's Heating and Electric. Oh, hello, Keith. How you doing? Rita, everybody. 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. And don't forget, we got a little cool spell here, okay? But then look at the extended forecast. Warming up. You're going to be turning up the air conditioner. Make sure you got your filters clean for your air conditioning unit. And they've got all the cord ends, the rubber cord, the fuses. They've got all your light bulbs. They've got everything you need right there at Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue in Burley. Call ahead. Their order will be waiting for you on the counter, 678-0459. Ramsey Heating and Electric, where they provide warm winters and cool summers. Really nice people. All right, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I want to get into this next little portion of the program here this morning because I basically had enough. Some of the people in this area and some of these people, if they're listening this morning, this is a direct attack on you and your personality and what you did to me and my wife about 6 years ago. And I think it's time for a little retribution, okay? I'm tired of this continuing, growing cancer, the Obama administration. I said this 6 years ago before he was elected as president. I did not like the man. I did not like his ideology. I did not like his politics. I did not like him personally. Now, I want to say this again because we've reiterated this time and time again on this program because the liberal left doesn't get it through their thick skulls. It has nothing to do with race. And if you'll think back and look at the tapes and review the tapes of this program from 6 years ago, you will find out that I was an advocate of Condoleezza Rice at that time, prior to Obama winning his first term. And now I'm an advocate of, I'd like to see a lot more of Dr. Ben Carson. Gee whiz, both are black. I don't like Barack Obama. Never have. I find that his administration is devilish, disgusting, and law-breaking. And I brought this up because I have a file that is about 2.5 to 3 inches thick various emails and letters and condemnations of me 6 years ago on this program, to where many called me a racist, many called me a bigot, many called me a lot of things because I was not in favor of Barack Obama, and I am even less in favor of him staying in office right now. One of my best friends and advertisers at that time, and then also still today, was a mentor with me over this issue with Barack Obama. And I gave great consultation to this man as to how to fight back, and we did. And quite frankly, it was the best thing I ever did, instead of sticking my tail between my legs and running away. But the letters and emails of calling me racist and bigot, and even from friends, and one in particular that really still hurts, it was from a husband and wife dairy family in the Twin Falls area that came out and blasted me for not liking Obama, and blasted me thinking, oh, Obama's the greatest Christian ever. I wonder what they think now. I wonder what they think now with this most scandalous administration and the way things are coming apart at the seams with a man that cannot lead anything, a man that cannot manage anything, a man that is nothing more than a figurehead because he just does not have the ability to be president. And this administration is the most dangerous and lawless administration I think we've ever had. Even more so, I think, than what a lot of you will throw up in my face as Richard Nixon's. This man is dangerous. He's treacherous. And I look at the situation now with John Brennan, former CIA chief, and I should say CIA Chief John Brennan, and spying on members of the Senate. Now, let's back this up a little bit, and I'll refer to a conversation that took place earlier this morning, an interview with a judge. And this judge said that the CIA basically works for the president, which is true. But if Obama says he didn't know about anything that was going on with John Brennan and spying on members of the Senate, in the words of this judge, the president is out to lunch and doesn't know what's going on in his administration. If he did know, the president should be impeached. Simply put, we have an administration with the NSA, we have an administration with the IRS, we have an administration that absolutely is the most scandalous administration I think that we've ever had. And an administration that can't administer. Nothing on energy. We're going in the hole, and we're shipping our coal to other countries so that they can flourish and become strong energy-wise and not us. That is lunacy. What is the matter with us for taking this administration the full duration? I know a lot of people are scared to use this word. I personally would like to see this man impeached and thrown out on his ear. Some don't agree. I think it's time to give him the gate. Let him go. Your thoughts, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Don't be cowardly. Speak up on this. I honestly believe Obama has hurt America so bad, it's going to take a long time to heal, if ever. Valley-wide Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert, they have got everything for your fair needs. And I know we're right in the middle of fair season. I don't care if it's your show haulers. I don't care if you need buckets. I don't care if you need brushes. I don't care what you need. They feed for your animals. They've got it all for you. And they've got the professionals right there at Valley-wide Home and Ranch that can just help you the minute you walk in the door. I'm telling you, they've got all your health supplies, everything. And when the fairs are over and you want to just go fishing, they've got all your fishing equipment too. You couldn't ask for a handier store to shop at. Valley-wide Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. Mandy and Steve, the whole crew, serving you. Oh, and by the way, they got all your dog and kitty cat food too. Valley-wide Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. Caller, I'll be right with you. Don't go away. I want to remind everybody, too, about our friends at Berry Equipment and Rental. Eli, Nick, everybody. They've got all the things you need to run your business, especially the large construction equipment, the man lifts, skid steers, excavators. They've got all the Bobcat equipment. They've got all the Doosan loaders. They've got the tillers, the mowers. They've got all the lawn and garden stuff. They've got everything at 3 locations: in Twin Falls on Addison Avenue West, in Jerome, South Lincoln, in Jerome, and West Highway 30 right there at Burley, 159 West Highway 30. Excellent people running the show, too. Eli, Nick, everybody there to serve you. They've been in business over 30 years. Berry Equipment and Rental. You stop in and see them today. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Jeb.
Yes, sir.
My best to George. Hope he keeps his arm better.
Oh, I do, too.
Yeah. You're talking about Obama. You know, Jeb, him not knowing stuff that's the biggest farce and lie I've ever seen in my life. I mean, he's got to know what his Secretary of Defense is doing when he's wanting to fire 550 majors in the field now from our military. What in the hell is he thinking?
Well, I don't understand. To be a major, now I want your help on this. To become a major, it's usually about, 10 to 15 years of really concentrated effort in the military. So after you've got an interest invested in someone for 10 to 15 years, and then all of a sudden while they're in the field, you give them a pink slip, I mean, this is absolutely brainless.
I can see it, some large butt sitting there in an office doing nothing but playing tiddlywinks. I can see him being sent home, but not somebody out in the field helping protect his nation.
I don't understand. Why, Al, in your opinion, is there such an absolute bent on destroying and reducing and making more vulnerable our military and our resources to protect this country?
Because nobody is paying attention to what's going on. They're criticizing Israel because they're protecting themselves. But yet, look what they're uncovering.
Yeah.
And Mr. Obama don't know none of this stuff. Horse puppy. He knows everything that is going on.
You know, Al, I know this sounds like a conspiracy theory, but I just wonder if it isn't part of a master plan to just weaken us economically, militarily, and put us in a position to where, yes, there will be maybe an Islamic flag over the White House.
That'll be a cold day in hell.
Yeah, but wait a minute. Will it really?
Yes, it will.
Well, think about it. Right now, the more we weaken our defenses and the more we try to cast away our Constitution, I'm scared, Al. I think that there are a lot of very, very insidious people out there that are willing to do anything to throw this country underneath the rug.
That's fine. We've still got some people like the Heritage that finally told Juan Williams where he was a racist, and Juan Williams shut up for a change. But we need to get more people like that Dr. Carson.
Yeah.
That man is sharp. I wish we had more like him.
I can't argue that point.
Side, we've got it made.
All right, Al, appreciate your call always. Thank you. All right, take care. Hey, we've got to do an update with the Capital Press Ag Minute, and we'll be right back in less than 60 seconds. Caller, I'll stay there. Don't go away. I'll be right back.
Today's Ag Minute brought to you by the Capital Press, the West Ag Weekly.
Irish yellow spot virus pressure in the Treasure Valley region has not been nearly as bad as it was last year when it wiped out some onion fields. Farmers in the Treasure Valley area of southwestern Idaho and eastern Oregon produce about 25% of the nation's bulb onions, and the virus is one of their main production challenges. It weakens the plants and reduces onion production. It can substantially reduce onion bulb size, which is important because large onions fetch a higher price. The disease is spread to onion spice thrips. Experts say many growers in the area started spraying their thrips earlier this season, and they sprayed more often. While growers typically start their thrip spraying around Memorial Day, many started in early May.
For more agriculture news and information, turn to the West Ag Weekly, the Capital Press, and capitalpress.com.
Thank you very much. Hey, by the way, caller, don't go away. I'll be right there. I want to talk a little bit about our friends at Snyder's Surplus. Oh, they've got something for everyone. You go down the list of everything they've got at that brand new store. I mean, they've got all the tools, and they got all the backpacks and the bags and the tents, and they got belts and boots. Holy cow, survival equipment. They've got trailers. They've got trucks. They've got everything over there at Snyder's Surplus, 112 South, 200 West of Rupert. Stop in. Brand new store, brand new merchandise, and always the same friendly service at Snyder's Surplus, 112 South, 200 West of Rupert. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning again.
Yes, sir.
I agree with you 150% to get rid of Obama. But do you think we would be better off with Biden or with Kerry?
Well, I don't think it's the point of being better off, but I think that you've got a cancerous situation here which needs to be thrown out of office. I think Obama should go. I think Biden as president, he can be controlled, he can be manipulated, if you will. I don't think he's the brightest bulb in the fixture by far, but I think up until the elections in 2016, at least he's controllable, and then take him like a used piece of Kleenex and throw him out. But I tell you what, I think that we've got to look at the fact that there are impeachable offenses that have been committed by this president. And to overlook these and say, oh, well, let him ride the horse until 2016, baloney. I don't like this man. I don't trust this man. And I want to see him thrown out of office.
I agree with you. I agree.
All right, my dear friend. Thank you for your call as always. I appreciate you.
Okay.
God bless you. Thanks, Rodden. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zev.
Yes.
You know, if Obama knows what's going on in his administration, he should be impeached. If Obama doesn't know what's going on in his administration, he should be impeached.
You know, Linda, that's the most simplified statement that sums up the whole problem. If he's that inept and amateurish and absolutely unknowing, that says that he shouldn't have been a leader in the first place and throw him out. However, like you said, if he does know and he's been akin to what's going on back there, then definitely throw him out.
Yeah. You know, when the Democrats first said, if you don't vote for this man, you're a racist.
Yeah.
That should have been a sign of trouble right there.
Yeah, but you know, Linda, you have been a listener on this program for a long time, and you know the trials and tribulations I went through 6 years ago, where the Democratic Party here in the state, Deborah Silver and many others, they were sicking people on me. They sicked the news media on me. They wrote nasty letters. They put false stories together and everything, hate mail, etc., because I did not like Obama. Now, never once did you or anyone else hear anything racist from me about Barack Obama. How could I run him down on a race situation when at the same time, if you'll go through the archives of the old programs, I was advocating that Condoleezza Rice run for president?
Exactly. Well, they were just assuming if you don't like what he's done, you're a racist, because you've got to like everything somebody that is another race likes to do, no matter what they do, or you're a racist.
Absolutely.
That's assumption.
Yeah, and the totally stupid, to use a very simplistic word, attitude of these leftists is that right now I'm also a supporter, and you've heard me say this many times on the radio, of Dr. Ben Carson putting his name in the hat, possibly to run for president.
I know. The other thing I've heard is Democrats say is that the Tea Party and the Republicans are tearing the country apart. And, you know, it's just nutso things. And I've heard people thought Obama would be their savior. Man.
Okay, now let me ask you a question. Linda. When they say something like that the Republicans and the Tea Party are tearing this country apart, give me a definition as to how and why. What are they doing to tear this country apart? Are they against the Constitution? Are they against the laws? Tell me what they're specifically doing to tear this country apart.
They're doing what the Democrats don't like.
Which is?
Whatever they don't like.
Okay. That's a good answer. That's a good answer. No, I agree with you, but you know, when you look at who's really defying the Constitution, who's really breaking the law, look at the situation on the border, Linda, for heaven's sakes. It's the Democrats and the Obama administration that are turning a blind eye and a deaf ear to the problem and won't solve it with a stroke of his so-called pen that he has in his shirt right now. Obama could close that border down so we don't have this misery.
Right. It's that they're blaming us for what they're doing. That is for the result of what they're doing.
Absolutely.
They don't dare blame themselves.
And Linda, always, you're so appreciated with your beautiful voice. Thank you for calling in this morning.
Precious, thank you.
God bless you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. She can sing.
George Mass, all the very best.
I will.
Within a prayer for him.
Oh, thank you so much.
And
George.
it wasn't worse than it was.
Oh, I thank God for that, let me tell you. George Mass, you're getting all kinds of wishes that you heal up fast, and I certainly... George is just one of the nicest people. He and his wife Donna, they just don't come any better than that, and they're always jumping in and helping other people. Well, I certainly... Somebody today start a little cavalcade of cakes, pies, cookies, all kinds of good things to make Slim George kind of fatten up a little bit. He's a great guy. Hey, speaking of fattening up a little bit, I'm going to take him over to Denny's restaurant and buy him breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Oh, ho, ho. It is so good. I'm telling you what, Denny's restaurant, 611 Overland in Burley, the very best of food, breakfast, lunch, or dinner. I mean, I love the omelets. I love the biscuits. I love those pancake poppers with cream cheese. Oh, I fell in love with them. And, of course, everything on the menu is delicious. Denny's restaurant is the home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch. All you have to do is just stop in, take a friend. Hey, by the way, if your friends live out of the area and don't get to Burley very much, the next time they come, give them a gift card to go to Denny's and enjoy a great meal. 611 Overland in Burley, Denny's restaurant. Really nice people. Oh my, let's get some more calls coming in here. And I also want to remind you about some of the great folks that we have with the Cassia County Fair and Rodeo that welcome you to be a part of the rodeo this year. Businesses like AMI, 1719 Overland and Burley, the number to call, 678-4632. Look for the big 28-foot wrench over the door and go nuts over their bolts. They're the meat and potatoes of the industry. Nothing fancy, and they say, hey, come on to the Cassia County Fair and Rodeo, AMI. Thank you very much. Butte Irrigation, 116 South, 600 West, Highway 27 in Paul, and their new location on Kimberly Road, north of Kimberly by the Red Cap Corner. Butte Irrigation is a major hub for agriculture irrigation parts and equipment. They will get you wet at Butte Irrigation. And last but not least, Burley Veterinary Hospital. Wonderful, wonderful people, Doctors Wally Ward and Scott Morley. They work on small and large animals, and they're here ready to go and serve you when you need a vet. Call them at 678-5509. Burley Veterinary Hospital, 2869 Overland in Burley. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning. My cell phone just told me that severe flash floods in this area are possible.
Be careful out there.
Oh, it scared me to death.
Yes.
Yeah, and I don't know if I live downstream from the mountain, but I could. Anyway, I don't know how much more conservatives can say. We've all got to get together. And I have a past in the Republican Party, and now I have decided to join the Tea Party because they're the ones that really do talk about the Constitution. And in the state of Idaho, we've got to come together or we're going to lose out in the most conservative, quote-unquote, state in the nation.
I agree. Now, here's my thinking on this, Chris, and I want to get your feeling. I do not understand yet, today, right now, this minute, at exactly 8:41, I do not understand, and I want you to enlighten me, why Tea Party representatives and the hierarchy of the Republican Party can come together like grown adults, patch up any differences, and show a power play that's going to benefit America. Explain that to me.
I don't know. And I really, why I'm not an active Republican anymore is because the Republican Party has strayed so far off of the Constitution.
Yeah.
And the Constitution is the only hope for this country. And the problem is, a lot of our statesmen, a lot of the real leadership of our country has passed on. And the newer generation of kids just have not studied our Constitution.
You know, we have Rita on the phone with us, and we have all the people of the hierarchy of the state Republican leadership, and I like those guys. I do. I like those guys. I think we've got a good entourage representing us from this area. But when I look at the overall picture of politics, and I look at the overall structure of this party platform versus the Tea Party or whatever, I still scratch my head and say, why can't grown-up individuals sit down with common sense that God gave a billy goat, try to soothe and salve the wounds, and have a power play against the Democrats?
You know what? I can't either. And the thing is that, you know what? We had strong candidates to pick from in this last election, and unfortunately, people did not study. And actually, the state of Idaho could really lead if they would just put down their armor and pay attention to each other and go back to the Constitution.
If it's a matter of jealousy, if it's a matter of, well, we've done it this way for a long time, I don't think we're going to change, well, then you people are idiots, because we're never going to improve a situation. We're always going to have this infighting. We're always going to have the liberals and the socialists and the Democrats do their best to just turn everything upside down until we start to act like grown-up adults, sit down at a table. If a couple of black eyes are necessary, so be it, but let's get the job done.
Right. And I'm hoping, like everything, that the Republican Party in the state of Idaho will take a breath and look at what's going on and start listening to the constitutional members of the state of Idaho, because we've got to have it. It's the strongest thing that we can lean on.
You know, here's what I'll do. I don't know who you would want on the show, whether it's Rita, whether it's you, or if you have somebody else by choice. What we ought to do is just get somebody on here from the state Republican leadership and the Tea Party leadership and just sit them right here in this studio, shoulder to shoulder at two microphones in my home studio, and look me in the eye and tell me what the big differences are so that we can't make amends and try to make a power play.
Well, I think that there are several people in the Tea Party that could do that, and Rita, of course, is very, very astute, and Darmoon is very good.
Yep.
I think that we have some local Republicans in the Minnetonka area that have been serving our state for a long time. And why don't we start local? Everything is local, actually, and we need to start getting some forums out on this, because if we don't, and if the state of Idaho doesn't start at the grassroots, we're not going to be the most conservative state in the union.
I agree. I tell you what I want you to do. I'm going to hold your feet to the fire on this. I want you to call me after the show, and we're going to get that set up on my program. And then I'll just say this. If either side backs out and doesn't want to do it, I'll just basically get on my program and say the cowardice prevailed, because I think it needs to be done.
Right. And the sooner the better.
I agree. Call me after the show.
Okay, bye-bye.
All right, thank you. Caller, I'll be right there. Don't go away. Please have patience with me. I've got things that I have to do. I've got 60 seconds to get a weather forecast in. Burley Glass, 1029 Overland Avenue in Burley. General Ben, Leslie, the whole crew working hard to provide great service to all the communities in Magic Valley. And don't forget, they can install those vinyl windows, which help increase the energy efficiency of your home by 2 to 3 times. They did here at my office. It's fantastic. Burley Glass, 1029 Overland Avenue in Burley. Here now, Michael Rogers weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers for Zeb in the Ranch. You got about close to half inch on the ground at the Twin Falls Airport as far as precipitation in the form of rain. You're still going to get a lot of it. You have a flood advisory. You have a flash flood watch in effect till 9 o'clock tonight. And that rain is going to continue along with the cooler temperatures. Temperatures as far as the daytime high for today, you're not going to see the 90s. You're going to see pretty much the upper 70s going to the low 80s. Other than that, enjoy the weather, Zim. What do you got?
Thank you, Michael. Burley Glass, 1029 Overland Avenue in Burley. My sponsor for the weather with Michael Rogers this hour. Thank you, Burley Glass. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Well, the problem is why the Republican hierarchy, and it's not only just the national but state, they don't believe in the Constitution. They become neocons. And Irving Kristol was the leader of the neocon movement. And believe me, their feelings are totally different than what we feel as far as constitutionalists and abiding by the Constitution. And I know it's here locally. It's been that indoctrination has come right down to this level. And that's why they hate the Tea Party and constitutionalists like you and I. It's so ingrained now that you see the infighting in state party politics really reflects that. But the only thing is, like you say, going to have to get people down there. And but you see Lawrence Denny, see the attacks that are coming on him because he's a Tea Party type conservative. And so the establishment always expects us to line up for their candidates, but when we have a candidate like Lawrence Denny, they're going to fight tooth and toenail, even to the point of electing a Democrat to just prove their point.
And this is... I don't have a lot of time, nor do I give any grace to people that do stupid things to get something done in a stupid manner. You got to look at the situation. Adrian, I know you know what I mean. We've talked about this on our program. If the ultimate goal is to better serve the Constitution of the United States of America, then let's read the Constitution, understand what it says, and then go abide by it. It's the same as the Bible. If the Bible says thou shalt not, then thou shalt not. I do not understand why people have to deviate from a right and wrong and create a gray when everything is black and white.
Well, absolutely. But see, like I say, to them, the Constitution is a has-been document. But like I say, our founding fathers, you and I both know the history of the sacrifices they went through to bring us the Constitution, and it's under attack not only by liberal Democrats, but by these neocon so-called conservatives in the Republican Party. And so we have to realize that. But if they'll sit down and get back with the Constitution, I agree with the previous lady, the solution to our problems is abiding by the Constitution at all levels. And if it's not in the Constitution, the federal government only has a very limited responsibility, but they've way superseded that power. And one of the key things is that our whole system was set up that we would be innocent until proven guilty. But look at the EPA sending out SWAT teams now because of extra pollution from some vehicles.
Yeah.
EPA has SWAT teams now, folks. I mean, we're becoming a military zone in ourselves here with these kind of bureaucrats coming out, having the authority to just take it upon themselves and become little military dictators.
I agree with you, Adrian. Thank you again for your call. Thank you much.
a great day.
Got to run. Thanks. He's right. I tell you what, we've got a lot to be thankful for in this country, but then on the other hand, we can't rest on our laurels. We've got a lot to do to make sure that we keep and maintain the value system that this country has had for well over 200 years. It means something to me. It means something to me that all these people, from all the way from revolutionary times clear up to the Middle East problems with Afghanistan, Iraq, etc., that all the soldiers, all the blood, sweat, and tears, they basically put their lives on the line for me and America and our Constitution and our freedoms. And why are we absolutely haranguing with each other instead of having a central purpose of trying to make sure that America stays number one? I don't want to be number two. I don't want to be number three. I don't want to be in the top 10. I want to be number one. And I'm sick and tired of these losers in our society that think, oh, well, we want to just kind of fade into obscurity. We don't want to do this. We don't want... The heck with you. I cleaned up my act a little bit. I want to be number one. This country has done so much to help other countries and people by being number one. And to the leadership, if you call it that we have now that wants to denigrate us and put us lower and lower on the totem pole, they need to be replaced. Now. Hey, there's a lot of fun things going on at the Jerome County Fair and Rodeo. Today is day number 2, and they've got all kinds of things going on. The dairy show's going on right now, and they're going to be judging flowers in a little bit. All the booths are open, and then they're going to have the pygmy goats and everything showing today. And then tonight at 5 p.m., the big parade, the Jerome County Fair and Rodeo Parade. And tonight at 7:30, the PRCA Rodeo starts at 7:30 right there at the rodeo grounds at the Jerome County Fair and Rodeo for 2014. Get on over to the Jerome County Fair and Rodeo. Calls are welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Holy cow, I could not believe it. Gina, are you by your microphone? She's gone.
No, I'm here.
Oh, okay, good. Did you see on the news what this latest quote-unquote teen craze is now? Oh. Pull it up on the computer, and I guarantee you a steak dinner for you and your boyfriend that you're just going to fly back in your chair and go, holy moly, this is the dumbest thing I ever saw.
What is it?
They're covering themselves with either butter or some kind of a lighter fluid from the waist up and setting themselves on fire to see how tough they are.
Oh, well, that's a smart move.
No.
I was being facetious.
I just don't understand why anybody could do anything so stupid. They showed a young man this morning who was about 16 years old standing in the shower, and he went ahead and put this stuff all over him and then torched himself and to see how long he could stand the pain.
And how long did he stand?
Not long. Not long.
On the shower.
But, you know, when you see the videos that are posted now on YouTube and everywhere else, what is the matter with people that they want to do something so stupid?
Yeah, I actually brought it up. It's called the Fire Challenge.
Yeah.
I don't understand why they would want to do this, because, you know, burns can be disfiguring, and they don't. Those scars never go away.
I don't know, man. I just absolutely question how anybody could get into that frame of mind and have somebody talk them into setting themselves on fire. I mean, you got to help me on that one. I just can't help. I can't figure it out.
I'm drawing a blank on this as well. Maybe it's a whole kind of, you know, toughness thing. Ooh, I can do this, you know, and I can stand 10 seconds. Can you be 10 seconds and another, you know? And
yeah.
It's the challenge of it all, but it's dumb. It is seriously dumb, and kids they don't understand how they can disfigure themselves for the rest of their lives just over a stupid challenge.
Yeah, oh, by the way, yesterday, if you'll recall, we were doing a kind of an update on some of the people in Hollywood from years gone by that have really served this country. Mm-hmm. And there was a couple of other notables I wanted to throw out at you this morning.
Okay.
Clark Gable, United States Army Air Corps, B-17 gunner over Europe. Charles Bronson.
Oh.
Remember Charles Bronson?
I do.
With a face that looked like it was chiseled out of limestone.
Yep.
U.S. Army Air Corps B-29 gunner wounded in action. Buddy Hackett. Remember Buddy Hackett, the comedian?
I do.
United States Army anti-aircraft gunner. And here's one that I didn't know. Jack Palance, United States Army Air Corps. Jack Palance, remember in the movies, he also had a face that looked like, the look itself would just make you go sit down in the corner and shut up. And he was severely injured bailing out of a burning B-24 bomber. And somebody called in yesterday and they said that John Wayne tried to avoid the service and he was a draft dodger and everything, and I said, no, that wasn't true. Well, I looked it up to make sure that I didn't make a mistake, and I was 100% correct. John Wayne declared 4F medically unfit to serve in the military due to pre-existing injuries, and those were knee injuries due to playing football, and he nonetheless attempted to volunteer 3 times for the Army, the Navy, and the Film Corps, so he absolutely tried to serve his country the best he could. Yep. And then remember quickly that I talked to you about James Arness, you know, the star of Gunsmoke? Mm-hmm. Well, I didn't know, but his brother, Peter Graves, you know who Peter Graves is?
Yes.
Okay, he was the lead star on Mission Impossible for a long time. Mm-hmm. He also served in the United States Army Air Corps, so we had both brothers serving in the military, and I just wanted to point that out.
Also, did you know that Hugh Hefner was in the U.S. Army?
Yep.
Drew Carey was in the Marines. Bea Arthur from Golden Girls, she was in the Marines.
That's right.
Chuck Norris, he was introduced to the martial arts while he was serving in the Air Force over in South Korea.
And I got one other one real quick before I do my commercial.
Okay.
Barney Fife, Don Knotts, served in the United States Army in the war against Japan.
There you go.
There you go. Hey, don't forget our friends at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations. Yes, sirree, serving you, and serving is the key word. The best in tires, the best in brake service, the best in front-end alignments, the best in shocks and struts, the best in batteries, the best in free tire, lifetime tire and mileage care, free peace of mind tire protection. They really take care of you all the way after the sale. You better believe it. And stop in and see Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family over in Paul, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley. They are the best. That's it. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. You stop in and see them today. Going to take a break for 6 minutes. News is next from ABC. Don't miss. Coming up in 6 minutes, Brian Fairchild, former CIA operative. Don't miss it. We'll see you in 6. Oh, kind of a rainy, I mean, it's wet outside. Good morning, Tuesday, August 5th, Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell, and thanks to our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you. And, of course, some of our great advertisers, including Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland and Burley, and our friends at Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho,
I tell you what, I believe in Western Waste Services. I think the job they do is second to none. Always at your disposal. Call them at 734-6969. I know Deanna and I did a commercial for them on television, and we just really enjoy these people because they serve you. By the way, too, don't forget, if you've got maybe a messy garage, or you need to clean out the shop, or get everything out of the basement, maybe you'll need a dumpster. They've got them in various sizes. They'll drop them off. You fill them up. up, and then they'll come get them. I'm telling you, that's the way to do it. Oh, and by the way, too, for all the summer rentals of porta potties, they've got them for you. 734-6969. Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Absolutely great, folks. We're going to have our guest with us in just 30 seconds. Stand by, but right now also Handsome Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert, with our dear friend, so supportive of this program and so supportive of Lunch Bunch, Joel Heward, the manager. And believe me, on behalf of him and his entire family serving you at Handsome Mortuary, you know that in the time of need, when there's the passing of a loved one, they are always going to work with you, upholding the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. Please call them today, and we all need to get the pre-planning of funerals to help alleviate a lot of the stress and worry for our families. 436-5636. 436-5636. Handsome Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm honored again, and I say that every time he's on our program, to have with us former CIA operative, and he served our country and served it well, and that, of course, is Mr. Brian Fairchild. Good morning, Brian. How are you?
I'm doing just fine, Zeb. How are you down there?
Well, I want to compliment you on your writings, your weekly blog, if you will, underneath the title of Blind Eagle. And this week's story, your blog, left me with a lot of questions. And the title of this week's blog was The Secret Jihad, Al-Qaeda's Invisible Non-Combatant Army. So I'll play naive, even though I've read this thing and really highlighted all of it. What do you mean, Al-Qaeda's invisible non-combatant army?
Well, you know, Zeb, when you hear about the jihad, and when most people think about the jihad, they think of these horrific sights. They think of vehicles being blown up driving down a desert road, or planes going into the Twin Towers, that sort of thing. They think of, you know, men in Arab garb and long beards and turbans with AK-47s running around the ungoverned places of the world. But behind all of them, these are all radical Muslims. Right? These are all Salafi jihadi Muslims. Well, they had to become radicalized before they went to the battlefield. And we have a particular problem at this point in time, because right now there are over 12,000 foreign fighters over in Syria and Iraq working with the new Islamic State. Many of those 12,000 fighters are from Western Europe and the United States. So they had to become radicalized before they joined the jihad. I mean, you know, you just don't sit around your apartment and one day you go, hey, I'll be a radical Muslim, you know, fighter in Syria, and hop on a plane and go. You know, you first of all, you're a Muslim, you become radicalized with a certain ideology, and then something motivates you and you go. Well, the Invisible Army is the army of, you know, radical Salafi Muslims around the world that do just that for the jihad. They themselves don't necessarily run off to the battlefield, but they will do everything in their power to support those who do. So they radicalize these folks at radical mosques and different Islamist organizations, and different organizations like the Muslim Brotherhood, and, you know, several foreign-sounding, organizations that your audience hasn't probably heard of, like Hizb ut-Tahrir and Jamaat-e-Islami and Tablighi Jamaat. These are all Muslim, radical Muslim conversion centers that run around the world converting people to this Salafi ideology. So that's what I mean by the Invisible Army, is that Al-Qaeda, and this is documented by the Al-Qaeda leader himself, Al-Qaeda has this whole invisible army. They say, you know, one of the radical Islamist ideologues, a guy by the name of Mao Dudi in Pakistan, he back in the 40s, he wrote, you know, there are only so many thousands that can fight the jihad on the front lines, but behind those thousands are the millions that support them. And that's the Invisible Army, Zeb.
Let me ask you this, Brian, and I think I'll say I am too, part of the naivete of America. When we're talking about maybe 12,000 over there, and you're talking behind the scenes equal that number or many, many more, what about the radicalization of somebody? What about the radicalization of like that kid down in Florida that left Florida, American family, and he went over and now he wants to kill America? What happens to people, Brian, that all of a sudden they are turned and twisted and they want to become killers and maimers of humanity? What happens to these people?
Well, as far as the personal motivations, it's really kind of hard to say. But here's basically how it works. You're a Muslim, and you happen to be in an area where you go to a radical mosque. And in your city, there is a Muslim Brotherhood organization that you join. And you go off and do social things with different Islamist organizations. And everything about that is a radicalizing situation. I'm not saying all mosques and all Muslims are radicalized, but those that become radicalized, have these radical inputs. And there are two aspects to radicalization, Zeb. There's a religious aspect and there's an Islamist political aspect. The religious aspect is called Salafism. And Salafism is the Salafis, the As-Salaf As-Salis, the pious predecessors, were the first three generations of Muslims. And they were there during the time of the Prophet Muhammad and those that immediately came after, the first three generations. Well, they had two sources of religious authority. Only two sources. There were no schools of Islam. There was no Sunni Shia split yet. There was just the Quran, which they regard as the Word of God, and there was the life example of the Prophet. So what Salafis do, modern-day Salafis, call themselves Salafis to commemorate those pious predecessors. In Arabic, that's As-Salaf As-Salis. So the Salaf are the people that they want to be most like. So they take a very literal interpretation of the only two sources, the Quran and the Prophet's life, and they try to emulate that. Well, the Prophet, in the last 10 years of his prophethood, was a military leader and a commander who led battles. And so they say, and he led battles because Allah had commanded him to do so in the Quran. So Salafis and these young Muslims, like this guy you're talking about, Moner Muhammad Abu Salha, who left Vero Beach, Florida, became a suicide bomber in Syria, he had these inputs. He was in a situation where he, was dealing with radicals who brought him into this radical ideology, this radical, political concept. And then he ran off to Syria to blow himself up in a truck full of explosives in a northern Syrian restaurant that had a bunch of his enemies in it. And that's kind of how it happened. But it's a long procedure. You don't just sit around a computer looking at jihad websites and then just run off to the jihad. There is a process here, and it's been going on since the Muslim Brotherhood was created in 1928, Jeb.
Well, Brian, let me ask you this. There's one sentence in your dissertation that I really highlighted, and I want you to explain, because I think all of us in America need to listen from you, a man of much knowledge in this area, and also what's going on with Sharia law, etc. You said, to begin with, all of these organizations share the same Salafi ideology as Al-Qaeda and have the exact goal, the establishment of an Islamic caliphate ruled by Sharia law. Now, I would say this. I would say that probably 65 to 70% of Americans don't understand the Islamic caliphate, and they don't understand why these people want to have the entire world ruled by Sharia law. Maybe you should at this time explain that and give us a short synopsis as to how serious this really is.
Okay, well, this is about as serious as you can get. And the whole establishment of the caliphate by Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi in Iraq recently that you've all heard on the news, this is a big deal. This is a game changer. And what these guys are is and all these organizations, this is the point that I was trying to get through in this most recent article, is our policymakers and our counterterrorism officials, most of them, there are some very good counterterrorism guys out there, but most of them, especially the leadership, they don't understand that there is a religious aspect to this whole struggle, and that in the minds of the guys in ISIS or the Islamic State, they're fighting a holy war. And that holy war is based on a Salafi view, a Salafi orientation of Islam, and the political ideology that, Islam needs to dominate the entire world. Now, the caliphates, were the caliphs were the leaders of Islam. The first caliph was the Prophet Muhammad. Then the four rightly guided people, that's how they refer to them in Islam, the four rightly guided leaders that came after Muhammad were considered the golden age of Islam. And they were spreading Islam throughout the Middle East by the sword. And then every leader of Islam after that was what's called a caliph. The last caliphate was the Ottoman Turks that ended in 1924. So in 1924, there ceased being a caliphate, and there is no central authority in Islam. So, there's no church, there's no priesthood, there's no organizational structure. The only organizational structure there was the caliphate. Now that caliphate has been recreated in the middle of the Middle East, which is what Al-Qaeda has been searching and seeking to do ever since they were created in 1988. We became aware of them in 2001 when they bombed us and took down the Twin Towers and the Pentagon. But they were created in 1988, and their whole purpose was to create this caliphate from which they would form a base of operations. That's what Al-Qaeda means, is the base. And they would form this base of operations and then spread their version of Islam around the world. That's what's happening now. Now, whether that succeeds or not is really irrelevant to us. The fact that it's been created, the fact that you have over 12,000 foreign fighters fighting there, and those guys are expected to come back to their home countries and commit attacks here, that, is a major, major security problem that we're going to be facing for decades now. You can't go back. And it's just an amazing game changer, Zeb, and I don't think, the president and senior policymakers are regarding this as, well, it's just some kind of a regional problem over there in Iraq. They just want to get Sunnis represented in the Iraqi government. No, Zeb, no. That's not what this is about. This transcends Iraq, it transcends Syria, it transcends the Middle East. Right now they're focused on the Middle East, but it transcends all of that, and it's causing major strategic problems for the United States as we speak.
Let me ask you this, Brian, and I'm not trying to be kind of push this under the rug in any way, shape, or form, but is this a forced naivete from our government to its people, you and I? Is this for a purpose or a reason, or are these leaders that we have in this Obama administration just saying, simply put, dumb? What is the reason?
Well, it's a little of both. The lack of, here's how the best way to say it. No American leader, whether during the Bush administration or this current administration, the United States government as an entity has never considered this ideological problem as a strategic threat and dealt with it in a strategic way. We have dealt with the terrorists, and we've dealt with them in a tactical way. Our whole concept of fighting the war on terror is, kill as many individual terrorists as you can, and it'll be a war of attrition, and we'll kill more of them than they can create, and we'll win. But that hasn't worked. And the whole war of attrition thing is a non-starter, because they've obviously been able to create more jihadis than we've been able to kill or capture. So the strategic problem, and as you know from knowing me and knowing my site, I'm all about the strategic aspects of this struggle. From the strategic point of view, it makes perfect sense that, well, if you've got a movement, if you have like the communist movement or the Nazi movement or the Islamist movement, well, you probably want to, turn the tap off on the machine that's creating more communists or more Nazis or more Islamists. And that machine is the radicalization process and all these, the invisible army that does that and creates these few thousands that we see on the battlefield, but it really represents the millions behind them. And we've never done that. Now, we haven't done it for several reasons. Like the Bush administration was busy reacting to 9/11, then went into Iraq and Afghanistan and Iraq. And, maybe he was going to get to it, maybe he wasn't, I don't know. But under the Obama administration, it's taken even a more severe turn. Because in 2010, and remember, I just said, a few minutes ago, one of the major radicalizing organizations, one of the major aspects of this international machine that radicalizes folks is the Muslim Brotherhood. But in 2010, the president, and we know this from newly declassified documents, created a secret policy to actually support the Muslim Brotherhood in the Middle East over our traditional allies like Hosni Mubarak in Egypt. And when he did that, at about the same time, he and John Brennan, who was his national security advisor for counterterrorism and now is the CIA director, collaborated together, and they basically said, we as a government are not going to consider that there's any religious aspects to this problem whatsoever. And they banned all terms from the use in government of terms like jihad or Islamist radical or radical Muslims or anything that had Islam and terrorism to do with each other, they banned. So that's made the issue much, much worse, because once you've done that, the counterterrorism officials in this country don't have anywhere to go. I mean, then now they're just called violent extremists. Well, where do you go to find out how a violent extremist is radicalized? Where did you go down to the local violent extremist club? There is no such thing. But if you understand the religious aspect to it, you can find a Salafi mosque. You can find a Salafi organization like the Muslim Brotherhood. You can find Salafi imams who are proselytizing. But you can't find violent extremist clubs. So it's done a major disservice to us and put us in this really bad bind.
All right, O'Brien, I've only got about 3 minutes left, and I got two very important questions I need to ask. And give me a short answer on this first one. Number one, with the literally millions of support people behind the actual jihadists that are out waging the war, how concerned are you within the next 1, 5, 10 years, whatever, that all of a sudden a call to jihad, even those millions will take up arms? I mean, we're looking at a support group that sounds like they could become very militant on their own.
Well, many of them will. And the short answer is I'm very worried. The short answer is that the U.S. government is very worried. In fact, even the Obama administration, Eric Holder recently called this foreign fighter problem a global crisis in need of a global solution. So it's one of the biggest worries within the counterterrorism community that these foreign fighters or lone wolves will, rise up and attack in the homeland and around Western Europe. That is probably the biggest fear in the community right now.
All right, now my second question is, before I go off the air, and I've only got 2 minutes left, is that this morning I was listening to a judge talk about the CIA and John Brennan and the spying on members of the Senate, and this judge said emphatically that the CIA works for the president, and if Obama didn't know that John Brennan and the CIA were spying on members of the Senate, he's out to lunch. If he did know, he should be impeached. What are your thoughts, quickly?
Well, I think, the CIA, I love the CIA. I loved my career in the CIA. The CIA, and I love the guys, the officers in the CIA. Management of the CIA, in my estimation, has gone downhill ever since the end of the Cold War. And John Brennan, I think, is a completely political guy. He's very close to the president. They were joined at the hip at creating these kind of policies, and I would be surprised if the president wasn't aware. But either way, I mean, it's a terrible thing. It's crossed boundaries that have never been crossed before. You know, we, the CIA, are supposed to serve the nation, not be undermining the nation. And in the short time, that's the best answer I can give.
I just want to tell you how valuable your friendship is to me and my program. Brian Fairchild, former CIA operative and excellent author with his blog, Blind Eagle. God's blessings to you, Brian. And again, I'll be calling in the next couple of days and have you back. Thank you so much for your time this morning.
Thank you, Zeb. It's always an honor to be on your show, and I really appreciate it. So I'll be talking to you soon.
God bless. Thank you so much. All you can say is when you visit with Brian, there's one word, one very simple word that sums up the conversation after he's on our program, and that word is wow. I mean, wow. What's going on in not only this country, but around the world with the radical Islamists and the jihad, the caliphate, everything, needs to be brought out in front so that everybody can understand it. And he said it in very, very simple layman's terminology, and I respect him greatly, Brian Fairchild. I'm honored to have him on this program. Don't forget, the Jerome County Fair and Rodeo is in full swing, and my goodness sakes, the big parade is at 5 p.m. this afternoon right on Main Street in Jerome, and they have a ripping good parade, too. You don't want to miss that. Then they're all going to head for the fairgrounds, you betcha, because then the PRCA Rodeo starts at 7:30 tonight. Now, tomorrow on Wednesday, oh my goodness, all the exhibits and an open show on the swines. They're going to have all kinds of sheep judging, and they're going to have an open goat show tomorrow at 4 p.m., and then again tomorrow night, 7:30 p.m., second night of the PRCA Rodeo at the DePue Arena at the Jerome County Fairgrounds, and their big fair and rodeo for 2014. You'd better be there. Did you hear that? What? Did you hear that? Well, if you didn't hear that, then you'd better make a call to this number. Now, listen carefully. 312-0957. Well, what is that number for? Well, Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids with Dr. Christine Pickup, 1218 9th Street, Unit 2, right behind the Minidoka Hospital, absolutely across the street from the emergency room. If you're suffering hearing loss, it's not a part of aging. No. You might have a problem, and do not ignore hearing loss, not an age problem. It's not normal. So you better get a hold of the professional that understands the best in hearing, and that's Christine Pickup with Mount Harrison Audiology and Hearing Aids, 312-0957. Make an appointment today. Did you hear that? Okay. Let's see. We're going to have our next guest on the program momentarily. Stand by. But before we get this gentleman on the air, I want to remind you, too, about Let's Ride, Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley. Open Monday through Saturday, 9 to 6. They're summer hours. And they've got that showroom just crammed full. It's got everything in it. All the ATVs, all the dirt bikes, all the side-by-sides, they got generators. They've got all the accessories. I don't know how they got it all in there. You're going to love it. It's the place to go. And don't forget, too, they're offering rebates on some of the 2014 models, and some of the new 15 models are already coming in. So check it out where the fun is sold, and that's Let's Ride. Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley. You get over there and enjoy Let's Ride. Right now, we're going to be visiting with a gentleman that I've had on my program in the past, and I haven't heard from him for quite some time. And he's a good writer, very good writer, and he has put some pieces out on the TSA and their screening processes at airports. Good morning, Matt LaCourte. How are you?
I'm having issues getting him on the line, and I've already left a message.
Oh, so he's not there.
Apparently not.
Let me check and see if I have a difference of the number that I gave you, 973-865-1339. That's the only one I have.
Yeah.
And if you would keep trying to reach him, I would appreciate it.
You got it.
Thanks, Gina. Deanne's going to try, too. In the meantime, calls are welcome. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. And that'll give me an opportunity while I'm waiting and sweating bullets that we can get Matt on the air. I want to talk to you a little bit about Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley. They are the 2014 Minnecasia Reader's Choice. Thanks for being #1 furniture store. You better believe it. And they've got all the Flex Steel factory authorized sale going on right now with the Flex Steel furniture. Oh my goodness, that is beautiful furniture. They've got all the Thornton love seats. They've got the Thornton sofas. They've got the power recliners and rockers. They've got the power leather recliners. Oh, beautiful, beautiful furniture, and all the carpeting you could absolutely ever want to see. Rolls and rolls and rolls of carpet, and all the floor coverings. What are you waiting for? What are you waiting for? Get over there today to Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley. Ah, yes, the very best at Lee's Furniture.
Got him.
Oh, you got him. Okay, thank you. Good morning, Matt LaCourte. How are you?
Doing good. How are you doing, Jeff?
Not too bad. Listen, you just finished writing a piece about the TSA, and I've got my own issues with the TSA at major airports, but I'll let you kind of explain what you want to talk about this morning in regards to the body scanners. I think this is a complete waste of time. I think you have a tendency to agree. Bring us up to speed as to what's going on with the TSA imposing and embarrassing people that are trying to get on an airline.
Sure. Well, first, thanks for having me on, Zeb. But I think you nailed it, that they're kind of a waste of time. So every study that has looked at the TSA body scanners has essentially came to the same conclusion, that in some places they work, in some places they don't. Essentially, it's just a wash. There's really no difference between private scanning and between government scanning. But the only difference is government scanners cost more. They steal our privacy when we go to the airport, and they make us not want to go and fly because of the terrible experience of standing in the line at the airport, taking your shoes off, going through this weird body scanner. All this stuff that they make us do actually makes us not want to fly. And there's been some weird stuff going on with airplanes lately, but the fact of the matter is the safest way to travel is flights. And these short-haul flights, things like D.C. to New York, short flights where people normally would just hop on an airplane, nice quick flight, get to their destination. People are driving, and unfortunately, roads are a lot more dangerous than flying. And so the TSA is actively pushing people against flying onto the roads, and more people are dying. There's more injuries. There's more property damage from the way that we've set up our transportation system because of these TSA body scanners, and because assuming that the TSA can rid us of all problems when it comes to security. So the fact of the matter is they can't. They are not better than private scanners at keeping Americans safe, and they actually push people onto the roads, which makes things more dangerous. It's really a terrible situation, and there's simple ways to solve it.
Matt, let me ask you this. In all of the airports where they use these body scanners, very personal and very upfront and very embarrassing, have they ever, at any major airport, be it Chicago, LAX, San Francisco, whatever, have they ever caught anybody with a type of bomb and or weapon that showed up on the scanner to make it worthwhile?
So there are no documented examples of this. Most of the times where we hear about these big stories about potential terrorists, either the terrorists just screw up and just mess up their plans going in, or they're apprehended or stopped by other people on the plane who notice something is going on. It really never comes from the TSA. And there's some videos on the internet, even some studies of people purposely going to airports with knives, guns, things like that, and getting them through the TSA and being on the flight and showing that this is not an effective way of increasing safety in our country. And so there's just a really bad track record. And you would think that the TSA, the fact that they have more than 60,000 employees, over $8 billion a year, that they would be better at this, but they're just not. The fact that you can't show that the TSA improves safety more than a private company providing airport security is pretty telling to me.
You know, Matt, I've had three very distinct, very memorable, and not with fond memories, occurrences with the TSA. One at LAX in Los Angeles, another at St. Louis, and another at Oklahoma City. And I find that at smaller airports, i.e. Twin Falls, the TSA has been very gracious. They've been very helpful. They've done their job in a non-obtrusive manner. But some of these larger airports, some of the people that they have working for the TSA, I wouldn't hire to fill shelves at a Walmart. These people are absolutely pathetic personalities that are regulating what the TSA allows and doesn't.
Yeah, it's interesting that you bring up LAX. So there was a USA Today investigation a few years ago that took LAX, which has TSA-sponsored airport screening, and compared it to San Francisco. And San Francisco is one of the special cases around the United States where it actually has private screening. It's one of, I believe, 16 airports in the country that doesn't have the TSA. And the USA Today investigation found that the private screeners were better in collecting potential or finding out potential dangers from passengers. And on top of the safety aspect, you mentioned an important point. The people who are working at these airports, a lot of times they're just simply not nice. They don't make for a pleasant experience. And what the USA Today investigation found, that the private screeners at San Francisco's airport were just made the experience better for passengers, which is a critical part of flying. But you mentioned another really important part, and that is who the TSA is hiring. There are these cases that pop up every now and then. A few years ago, I'm from New Jersey. My home airport is Newark International, and there was an internal investigation that found that a few of the TSA agents in the Newark International Airport were actually stealing things and committing crimes while on the job. And it was almost impossible to get them fired because the unions that the TSA operates with are extremely obtuse, very difficult to get around, and they were having difficulty firing people who have committed crimes on the job. The same thing happened in Daytona Beach. There are examples here where the TSA is not good at what it actually says it does, is pushing people to drive, which is more dangerous, and is hiring and keeping people who have clearly shown that they are not capable of being competent and being not being criminals on the job. It's pretty crazy to think some of these things. We continue to just throw money at this problem, and we continue to just evade the law. There's another really interesting thing I want to get into. And that's questioning whether these body scanners are even legal. Mm-hmm. For any government agency, according to, the Administrative Policy Act, I believe it's called, when you have a new bureaucracy like the TSA that tries to propose a new rule, a new idea like the body scanners, they're supposed to open up a comment period so the public can discuss and send them comments on whether they like the idea or whether they don't like the idea, and government agencies, think tanks, other organizations can kind of chime in, right? This is the American democracy. After 1 year, the TSA or any government agency is supposed to then give the report on what they found. They're supposed to respond to all those that commented on the program, and then they're supposed to come to a conclusion. And the thing about the TSA is, it's been over 1 year. We celebrated the year a couple weeks ago since the TSA has put out, or it's been over 2 years, 3 years since the body scanners, over 1 year since the TSA has closed their comment period and has not said a thing to the American people. So this is just democracy just thrown out the window. They are absolutely not caring that thousands and thousands of comments have been filed against these body scanners, that credible organizations and credible scholars have put together work saying that these body scanners just don't work, and they won't even listen to it. This is the rule of law being turned upside down, and its safety being just thrown to the wayside for government bureaucracy. It's ridiculous. And with 75% of people planning on flying in the summer and going on trips all around the country, all around the world, why are we letting the TSA dictate and tell us to take our shoes off, to do X, Y, and Z, when this could be cheaper, more efficient, and done according to the rule of law with private companies?
Matt, let me ask you this, and I'm going to make this in the form of a statement on two different occasions that happened recently to me, and I want your response on this. Number one, in St. Louis, and I'm on crutches, Matt. You and I have never met, so you don't know that, but I'm on crutches because of some bad knees. I walk up to the TSA screener, and he said, put your crutches on the counter and walk through. And I looked at him, and I said, if I could walk through, I wouldn't need my crutches. And he looked at me with a vague stare in his eyes, and he said, are you becoming a smart aleck? And I said, no, I'm stating a fact. If I could walk through, I wouldn't need the crutches. And he absolutely became adamant that I should do it his way and walk through. He didn't have the brain capacity to figure out that I had broken knees. The second circumstance I want you to talk about is in regards to, I think there is a fear of Islam and a fear of profiling Muslims. In Oklahoma City, ahead of me were people that had the head garb on that represented their faith, and I wear a Western hat all the time for my business. They took my hat off my head and checked it, never checked theirs, and literally pulled the lining out of a $700 hat at Oklahoma City. And I'm just wondering, are they that afraid of profiling where they'll check on somebody that's 60-some years old on crutches wearing a cowboy hat and they'll let these other people go through?
Yeah, I think you mentioned really, really interesting points here. First of all, the story with the TSA agent and the crutches is just a perfect example of just how inhumane the TSA has become. You know, the reputation to be like touching grandma at the airport, or trying to examine little kids and see if they have some sort of explosives on them. It's really a shame, and it's embarrassing to have this country just engage in this type of behavior to just millions of travelers each year. On your second point, I think that it brings up a very interesting idea, and that is the nature of security in this country. If we, assuming the TSA is doing their job and stopping terrorism and any threat, we are really waiting to the last possible moment. Right? This is the last time where we're able to stop terrorism or stop a threat from causing harm on an airplane. It's much more important, and it makes us a lot more safer if we can be diverting our resources to figuring out who is out there, what they are trying to do, tap into their communications, and stop any threats, at the outset, not waiting for them to get into an airport and then stop them. So whether it's profiling, or whether it's private security or government security or anything, the question really here on a much larger level when we talk about is how the United States can deal with threats from afar, from domestic, and from foreign, and deal with them so we have enough resources to understand what is going on before we get to the airport. And when we talk about that, it gets back to kind of this idea that we've talked before, Zeb, and that is that our government is just run amok. The size is just unbelievable. The size and scope, the budgets, the deficits, the debt is crazy. And all of that hurts our ability to actually fund things that are necessary to stop terrorism in its tracks. When we're giving $8 billion to the TSA, we're giving $100 billion here, $100 billion over there. The last time I was on, we talked about President Obama's $300 billion transportation program. These are things that are taking away resources that need to go to important things, like actually finding terrorists and stopping them. So while the TSA is very important, or airport security, and the strategies and tactics that we utilize to have better airport security are important, We would much rather, as the American people, stop terrorism in its tracks and not for it to actually even be at the airport.
So basically, if I hear what you're saying correctly, Matt, and I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, is that basically the TSA and this phony attribute of searching everybody at the airport and that body scans and everything, it's nothing more than like an old Western false front building. It's nothing more than a Band-Aid. It just kind of lets people know maybe that they're doing something to stop terror when in essence they're not really doing anything. Is that basically a good summation?
Unfortunately, that is true, and we like to think of ourselves as rational people who can look at a situation and take on the facts and come to a conclusion. But the fact of the matter is, when we go to the airport and when we see scary things on the television, we want to know that we are safe. And when you go to the airport, there is this security theater. There's these TSA agents which give you a hard time and argue if you can walk through the body scanner or not. There's all these rules on the board. Everybody looks very serious. They're going to make you take your shoes off, and you can't have 3 ounces, all this stuff. But the fact of the matter is that some people need to recognize the fact that they are being protected. And seeing that in action actually makes people feel more protected, when in reality the things that are going on that we don't know about are actually doing those things. So right now I'm in Washington D.C. And there's a bunch of government buildings around me somewhere where some agents are checking out some things that are going on in the Middle East or tapping into some communications. That's how we stay safe. It's not going to the airport. This is the security theater that the TSA has built up and made people obsess over the fact that they want to see their government in action. And then at that point, they can push the TSA bureaucracy, expand the number of personnel, expand the size, the scope, and the things that they do to us. But really, the TSA is not what's going to stop terrorism. We've seen that with the terrible examples of things going through these screeners and coming out the other side. The ability to stop terrorism is not rooted in the TSA. It's rooted in things like the CIA and our military overseas. It's not when you go to the airport whether the guy that checks your bag is going to see what's inside of it. And so it is security theater, but it does make us feel better when we see that in action.
But one last thought here, Matt, and I've only got 2 minutes left. But, I'm one of these guys that when I go to an airport, I sit and watch people. And many times, I will say this, and I've mentioned it on my radio program, once down at Dallas-Fort Worth Airport, I turned a guy in. He got up, left a box under his seat, looked a little suspicious, and he walked away. And I went to the gate, and I demanded that they get security to check that out. And about 3 or 4 other people chimed in with me. Are airports afraid to start profiling people and looking at people and listening to people like me? Are they afraid to get involved?
I don't know if they're afraid. It's a good question. I think what you're talking about right now is something that takes a lot more security than the TSA, and that is just your average citizen looking out and being smart, and seeing things that could be dangerous, and then trying to prevent them. There's a lot of stories, including overseas flights, where there was someone on a flight who looked suspicious, and if they try to make a move or something, other people on the flight will stop them. There's also the program that the U.S. government has where they have officers on the plane, plainclothes officers on the plane that are kind of looking out for people who are around, and if anybody makes a move for the cockpit or something, they can stop them. So it's really that type of stuff which works. I don't know if airports are scared of profiling, but I think that there are politically correct factors at play that go into that do lead some people to be weary of that model. But I don't know if that is the best way to move forward with airport security. And the best thing about having more private security, though, is that the TSA has one policy, and that's how it works. With private security, we can try different things, and we can see where there's more competition, there's more choice, and then we're able to see what really works, not just have every single airport in the country do the same exact thing.
Absolutely. Matt, I absolutely enjoyed having you on the program. Matthew LaCourte, thank you, talking about the TSA. God bless you for taking the time to come on, and please come back in the future. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Ed. Have a good one.
God bless. Thank you. Very, very interesting. And he wrote the piece called Summer is the Season, Sanity the Reason to Privatize the TSA. Thank you, Matt LaCourte. Appreciate that. Holy smokes, Zeb, look at the clock. Oh, my, we got to get a weather forecast in here. And the weather this hour brought to you by Sportsman's Warehouse, 1940 Bridgeview Boulevard in Twin Falls with our old buddy Reese Widmeyer. Oh, quality gear gives you the edge when you want to perform well in the great outdoors. Well, the great indoors, for those who love the great outdoors, is Sportsman's Warehouse, 1940 Bridgeview Boulevard in Twin Falls. The very best of everything you need for outdoor gear and friendly experts. Here now, Michael Rogers weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers is Zeb in the Ranch. We got about close to half inch on the ground at the Twin Falls Airport as far as precipitation in the form of rain. You're still going to get a lot of it. You have a flood advisory. You have a flash flood watch in effect from 9 o'clock tonight. And that rain is going to continue along with the cooler temperatures. Temperatures as far as the daytime high for today, you're not going to see the 90s. You're going to see pretty much the upper 70s going to the low 80s. Other than that, enjoy the weather, Zim. What do you got?
Thank you, Michael. Brought to you this hour by the experts. Absolutely. The great indoors for those who love the great outdoors. Sportsman's Warehouse, 1940 Bridgeview Boulevard in Twin Falls. Reese Widmeyer, our manager. And I'll tell you what, Sportsman's Warehouse has it all. Stop in and see them today. Oh, my. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. And I've got time for some calls, so give me a jingle right now, and while I'm doing this, I'll wait for your call. Don't forget our friends at Cameron and Siemens Insurance. When you think about life insurance, and you should, and when you think about health insurance, and you should, or retirement planning or employee benefits, you'd better be thinking about Cameron and Siemens Insurance. Dean and Todd, very dedicated and responsive to your needs. They're accessible and devoted to serving others. All you have to do is give them a call, 436-4424. Remember that number, 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, Highway 24 in Rupert. Really, really good folks. Wow. Gina, do you fly at all? Have you ever flown very much? Have you had any bad circumstances with the TSA?
Only in Lewiston.
Really?
Only in Lewiston.
What happened in Lewiston?
I had to get rid of, apparently, some of my shampoo bottles were a little bit too large, and I'd made sure that I'd, packed the smaller ones in the travel sizes, but they were too large. So it was fine going out of Boise. I've never had a problem in Boise, ever. Never had a problem out of Seattle. Only the airport in Lewiston.
I agree with you on much of what you said. I've never had a problem in Twin Falls. As a matter of fact, the TSA agents there have been very respectful and very helpful. I have never had a problem in Boise. The same can be said up there. I have never had a problem in Salt Lake on departing flights out of Salt Lake. I have had major problems at Los Angeles, Chicago, St. Louis, and Oklahoma City.
Now the last time that I went through, which was back in January, they introduced this new thing where they swab your hands now. They take this little disc and then they run it over your hands because they're looking for explosives and things like that. That was new. And their scanners are new as well. They don't do the wand anymore. Now you step into like this little it almost looks like a Jetson tube or something. You step in there, and the scanner moves across you that way. So it's very, very weird.
When I was telling him the story about and I have absolutely disdain for what the TSA, how they treated me back in St. Louis. When I looked at this gentleman that said, put your crutches up on the counter and walk through, I looked at him and I honestly said it this way. I said, well, now, if I could walk through without my crutches, why would I need my crutches? And he looked at me, and his first impulse was to say, are you being a smart aleck with me? And I felt like saying, believe me, being smart to you is not going to be appropriate. But, these people, they don't think. And I had the crutches sitting on the counter. I said, now, can I have someone come over and give me a hand wand and do a hand check on me? And he looked at me and he said, why? Walk through the area. And I said, I can't. And right away, everything starts to fall apart because they've got idiots that are working at certain airports.
When people that lack compassion and people that just, they can't put the two and two together. Okay, so you walk with crutches. You have for many, many years. And if I was a TSA agent and somebody comes up to me on crutches, I would allow them to go through. I might, run the crutches through first, okay, and then let them have back the crutches so they can get through the scanner. You do your job, but you have some compassion about it. And don't just say, walk through.
Yeah, and that's exactly what most of them do. But why are some of the airports, the larger airports, and I mentioned L.A., Deanna and I had a problem in L.A., a severe problem in L.A. They were not going to let me get on the plane.
Why?
It's a long story, but the story is I questioned why they did things, and all of a sudden I was told if I didn't shut up, I was going to be on the no-fly list.
Really?
Yeah, and it was something that was very, very sincere. I had a good question as to why they treated my equipment the way they did. They made me take off my shirt, and instead of putting it in one of those plastic holders, they just threw it on the conveyor belt, and I questioned this guy's mentality for treating my shirt in such an abrasive manner.
But the fair question.
Yeah.
They make all of us put everything else in those little plastic containers.
There you go.
Don't get dirty.
There you go. And it escalated from there because you know me and my short temper.
Oh, yes, I do know.
Yeah, I'm lucky I didn't get shipped to Guantanamo Bay. Anyway, I want to thank some of the cash and merchants for all their help. Dot Foods in Burley now hiring. Give them a call, 678-6063, or go to their website, drivefordot.com. Wonderful people to work for, family-owned company that really cares and very supportive of community events. Dot Foods in Burley. And don't forget, too, Golden Valley Warehouse, 468 West, 1000 South Burley. They are locally owned and operated with quality seed at competitive prices, and they continue to provide the customer service and seed available at Golden Valley Warehouse. And last but not least, our buddy Joe Taylor with Carrie and Adams Realty, 1826 Overland in Burley. Buys and sells real estate. One call does it all. My buddy Joe Taylor, 678-9400. You give them a call. All of these merchants wishing you a fun time at the Cassia County Fair and Rodeo. We'll be back in 6. Don't go away. Oh, my goodness sakes. Welcome back. Hour number 3. We made it this far. We might as well just keep plugging along. Zeb at the Ranch with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers, Lee's Furniture, Floors, and more at 459 Overland in Burley, and Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service today. Call Kelly and the crew, 734-6969. Don't forget the Gooding County Fair and Pro Rodeo, 89th annual, coming up next week, the 11th, all the way through the 16th. Oh, man, I'll tell you what, according to old Don Gill and the rest of them, they know how to have a ripping good time over there at Gooding. And don't forget, all the activities going to be all next week, and they're going to have great big barrel racing, and they're going to have a great big pro rodeo. They're going to have the Garage Boys Band. I'm telling you, they're looking forward to having everybody there, including you. So stop over and enjoy the 2014 edition of the 89th annual Gooding County Fair and Pro Rodeo next week in Gooding, the 11th through the 16th. It is going to be fun. Hey, by the way, too, don't forget our friends at the Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. What's the special for today? Oh, my. We're going to raise our little finger up in the air and say chicken Waldorf salad on roux bread. That's supposed to be rye, I think. They got roux. R-U-E? No, it's supposed to be rye. We'll say rye, and if it's roux, we'll apologize. Chicken Waldorf salad on rye bread with choice of potato and soup. And it's going to be delicious. Chicken Waldorf on rye bread at the Chadwick Sports Grill. Sounds good to me. Everything on the menu is. Nice people, too. 139 West Main in Burley. Chicken Waldorf. It is time, ladies and gentlemen, as he waits patiently standing out in the foyer, leaning on his cane, because he's old, you know, and he's got a long white beard, and he's kind of hunched over in the shoulders, and he's got his glasses on the tip of his nose. Come stagger up to the microphone, if you would, and say welcome to Dr. History.
Good morning, Zeb. How you doing this morning?
I'm good, my buddy. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Doing good.
What have you got to tell us today?
But no, it's cooled things off a little.
Oh, it has. Well, now, as you're sitting on your stool and kind of easing that big book from under your arm, what are we going to talk about today?
Well, we're going to go back to some of the medical practices that took place in the Old West, particularly the doctors that treated the cavalry guys that got shot by arrows.
Uh-oh, look out.
So this is kind of an interesting part of the medical history of the Old West, I guess we could say.
Okay.
So, you know, the Indians, they were expert, obviously, in the use of the bow and arrow in battle, and this actually presented a new challenge to the frontier military doctors, because few doctors had previous experience treating arrow wounds, so they were forced to learn about this through trial and error and combined with some common sense. There was a guy by the name of Dr. Joseph Bill, who was assistant surgeon at Fort Craig, New Mexico Territory, and he actually developed the first instruments for treating arrow wounds. And the technique that guided other military doctors faced with this same kind of injury. Now, you know, a skilled Indian could accurately shoot about 6 arrows per minute. So about every 10 seconds, you've got an arrow coming at you.
Mm-hmm.
So if a soldier was struck with one arrow, he was likely to soon be hit by another. So purposely, though, the Indian war arrowheads were loosely attached to the shaft. They used animal material like tendon or ligament tissue or some type of organic glue, but you know, when this material became wet from the victim's blood, the connection was weakened.
Yeah. So
the arrowhead usually stayed in when the shaft was pulled out, which obviously became a source of potential infection. Now, furthermore, any attempt to remove an arrow by the injured soldier or helpful buddies could not only produce additional tissue damage, it also made the doctor's job more difficult. And without the shaft as a guide, it was often hard for a surgeon to find and remove the arrowhead. So soldiers were warned not to pull out arrows, but most of them did anyway. You know, I thought about that, and I thought, you know, if you got an arrow in you and you're running from the Indians, either on a horse or on foot, and you got an arrow sticking out of you, I'm just thinking, I'm going to pull this thing out. Whether they were successful or not, but you know, you don't want a bunch of arrows sticking out as you're running through the brush.
Well, you know, this is all.
I actually had an arrowhead in his back for, I think, 3 or 4 years before he finally got to a surgeon that actually was able to operate and pull out that arrowhead.
Yeah, but wait a minute, Dr. History, wait a minute, if you can hear me. The way you said that a minute ago is all speculation. If you have, like you said, a bunch of arrows sticking in you and you try to run away, Dr. History, let me reiterate the obvious. If you have a bunch of arrows sticking in you, I don't think you're running anywhere.
Well, let's just say they're flesh wound type arrows. You know, not hitting anything critical.
Okay.
So, you know, not through the heart. But, you know, I'm looking at a picture of this Dr. Bill. He invented this little, they called it a Bill snare. And as I'm looking at a picture of this, what it is, it looks like a round, very thin rod that goes straight, and then at the very end is bent at 90 degrees, and then it's formed into a hoop or a loop or a circle. And so what he would do is he would, again, as long as the arrowhead or the arrow shaft was still there, he would move that right down the shaft of the arrow and hook it over the tip of the arrowhead and then pull it out.
Oh, man!
Which, again, you know, wasn't real comfortable for the soldier because typically there was no anesthesia.
Uh-huh.
So But, in spite of the difficulties, these Army doctors had a good record in treating what we would call superficial arrow wounds.
Yeah.
Most of the fatalities were from really head injuries, abdominal and chest type injuries. Those, you were pretty much gone.
Well, yeah, if you got an arrow stuck in your head from ear to ear, I can imagine.
By a reflex, most of us, if an arrow's coming towards us, we're going to try to put our hand up in front of us or our arm. So a lot of them were, say, in the arms, but and some of the legs, obviously. But with experience, the military doctor developed special methods in the treatment of arrow wounds. Like I say, first he would explore the wound with his finger to determine the location and the attitude of the arrow, and what structures were nearby, like if it's the kidneys, the liver, or whatever. And sometimes he used this long, thin, probe-tipped knife type thing that was fashioned to cut in two directions and from the inside out. And with this, he would enlarge the track of the arrow. Now, this allowed the arrowhead to be extracted more easily, if you can say that. And experienced surgeons, fashioned various probes and forceps and these snares like this Dr. Bill did to help get the arrowhead out. And some used, this wire loop type thing, and they would blindly guide it in there, sometimes with their finger. They were able to find it, to encircle the arrowhead, and then they would tighten the loop around the arrowhead, and if the surgeon was lucky and strong enough, he pulled the arrowhead out. And anyway, this bloody, painful procedure was performed in the field hospitals or even on the battlefield. And as I mentioned, when available, chloroform, morphine, or whiskey sometimes kind of dulled some of the pain, but most of the time there was nothing. The soldier just gritted his teeth or screamed or yelled or bit on a leather glove. But there was Dr. Elliot Coos, who was a famous military doctor, and he became an expert on arrow wounds while stationed at Fort Whipple, Arizona Territory. And he wrote, "A regular part of my business for 2 years was the extraction of Apache arrowheads." And then he says, Dr. Coos once removed an arrow from a young man's chest while the patient sat on a barrel and he sat on a stump. Said the arrowhead was lying near the large subclavian artery, but the artery was luckily quite uninjured and the procedure was successful.
Oh, my.
So you want to talk about some tough guys, you're sitting on a barrel and a doctor's pulling an arrow out of your chest. So now, as a rule, military doctors with their rigorous training and their mettle tested on the battlefield were competent, they're conscientious physicians, and many became leaders in their profession. Now, one outstanding example was a guy by the name of Sternberg. Now, he was a veteran of the Civil War and had a long career with the Army. Well, he was stationed at Fort Walla Walla, Washington Territory in 1877, and Sternberg had just arrived for duty when the Nez Perce began to attack. Now, he was sent to render assistance at the Battle of Whitebird Canyon, and then soon after he tended the troops and at the Battle of the Clearwater. Now, Dr. Sternberg walked out of the battlefield in the dark, only a few yards from the Indian lines to reach some of the wounded and bring them in. And when you think of the military in general, surgeons and medics, and these guys had to be some of the bravest from the old Indian Wars up through today's wars.
Absolutely.
But, one man in serious condition, this Dr. Sternberg, he was losing a great deal of blood, required immediate surgery in the field. So what he did, he had his assistants hold a blanket up to hide the light of a candle from the enemy while he operated out on the field. And in spite of the precaution, some of the Nez Perce sharpshooters fired at the light. So Dr. Sternberg had to finish in the dark, and miraculously, none of the medics were hit. The surgery was completed successful, and the patient survived. But after several more confrontations between General Howard's command and Chief Joseph's warriors, Dr. Sternberg was ordered to take 27 wounded soldiers back to safety. Now, this was no small order, because he didn't have enough wagons to carry them, so he kind of copied what the Cheyennes had done. He ordered several travois built to transport the wounded. And during the trip to Fort Rappelé, which took almost a week on the trail, Young Major Sternberg cared for the injured, and he even amputated one soldier's leg because it was bleeding so bad. Now, another remarkable doctor, and I know you've heard of this guy, Dr. Walter Reed.
Absolutely.
Dr. Reed was part of the team that discovered the transmission of yellow fever. And so that's why this famous hospital back east is named after him.
Mm-hmm.
But in December 1880, after the massacre at Wounded Knee, Reed was sent to Fort Keele near Miles City, Montana. He treated one officer whose life was saved when a bullet struck his pocket watch. Now, Dr. Reed meticulously removed the mainspring, the ratchet, the wheels, the glass, and the watch case from the guy's abdominal wall.
Oh my.
I don't think there's no record of whether they fixed the watch or not, but the watch saved the guy's life.
No, it was a Timex. It kept on ticking.
It kept on ticking, maybe. But now we're going to get to our good friend General George Custer. Just 8 days before Custer's appointment with Destiny at the Little Bighorn, General George Crook's forces camped near the Rosebud River, and they were attacked by an estimated 1,500 Lakota and Northern Cheyenne warriors under the command of Crazy Horse.
Mm-hmm.
And the fight raged for hours and frequently in hand-to-hand combat. Well, the battle cost the Army at least 9 soldiers killed and 19 wounded. But there were no arrow wounds because by then the Indians had guns.
Uh-huh.
Now, I found this interesting, and I know you know about this, but they used cylindrical bullets that produced greater tissue damage than the old standard ball.
Yeah.
And I had never realized that before. But now, there was one of the officers, a Colonel Henry. He was shot in the head.
Uh-oh.
Now, this guy kind of had an interesting history here. The bullet smashed both of Colonel Henry's cheekbones, his nose, and one eye. Now, he nevertheless attempted to lead another charge, but overcome with shock, he finally fell to the ground. His wounds were dressed at a small aid station in the nearby woods. After the battle, the Army began the retreat south. And now, to make the trip, this Colonel Henry was placed on a litter suspended between 2 mules, one in the front and one in the back. So try to picture this. This guy's on a litter between 2 mules. Now, the Army surgeons supposedly preferred mules to horses because they took smaller steps, giving the wounded soldier a smoother ride.
Mm-hmm.
Now, on several occasions, doctors had requested that badly injured patients be transported on an Indian-style travois, which we know are parallel poles rigged as a litter and pulled behind a horse. I mean, the Indians were pretty smart about that, but the Army, the brass, the upper guys, they kind of refused this because they didn't want to copy anything that the Indians were doing, even though it was really the smartest and the best way to move an injured person. Now, let's get back to this Colonel Henry. Now, in their hurry to leave the battlefield, the troops forced the mules to trot much of the time. So again, picture him between these 2 mules trotting on this litter. And Henry admitted later that this was the worst part. And he was positioned feet first between the mules. So the rear animal's thick head and skull kept bumping the guy's already injured head until someone saw this and turned his body around. Now, unfortunately, this position put him in danger of the lead mules kicking, and which, in fact, did kick him several times.
Well, now, wait a minute. There's another worry I have. If they turned him around...
I know what it could be.
If they turned him around on the travois and they put his head basically under the tail of the mule, there is more to worry about than just kicking.
Yeah, well, that might have been the least of his worries.
I see.
I don't know.
I see.
But I did kind of think of that. But then not only that, but he suffered further when the litter actually struck a boulder. He was thrown to the ground, rolled down an incline. Now, after surviving this, he was nearly washed away in the current while the mules were fording the Tongue River. Now, by the time he reached Fort Fetterman, having traveled 300 miles on a litter, Colonel Henry was totally blind, severely anemic, but he was alive. And amazingly, he eventually returned to full duty. And when asked later about the experience, Henry replied that he said, it was nothing remarkable.
Well, wait a minute. Did he get...
Talk about, helicopters taking people to Salt Lake or Boise, and This guy went 300 miles between two mules.
Yeah, but wait a minute. Did he regain his sight? Did he have sight?
He recovered and returned to full duty. So evidently they operated, and again, some of these Army surgeons had to be amazing guys.
Oh my goodness!
So, now there's another Army surgeon. His name was James DeWolf. He did not survive the famous attack up at Little Bighorn, nor did his associate, Dr. George Lord. Now, there was another guy, Dr. Porter, however, did live to tell about the bloody battle. In fact, he said, we made this retreat on a dead run. He said, the Sioux running right alongside of us, shooting, and in some cases pulling our men off their horses and then killing them. He said several were killed by my side, and the Indians were within 10 yards on either side, firing all the time.
Oh, my.
But he said as soon as he could, Dr. Porter improvised a hospital, if you want to call it that, on the top of what we now know as Reno Hill. And it was no more than really a shallow depression in the earth with sagebrush on both sides, an operating table, basically dirt and sand. And into this barely protected space, the Sioux chiefs and warriors, they would keep lobbing arrows up into the air where they'd come down with a high trajectory, and they'd strike the warriors. So a lot of the guys died that way, and, on their back or their stomach with an arrow in their back. But Dr. Porter worked throughout the first night under attack with over 50 wounded in his care, and with only a flickering candlelight and without anesthesia. But this physician cleaned and dressed wounds. He removed arrows. He probed for bullets, amputated limbs, and though fully occupied at intervals, this frustrated Dr. Porter occasionally would grab a rifle and fire a few shots at the Indians. So, again, a pretty brave, amazing man.
Absolutely.
Now, about this time, Colonel Gibbons, 7th Infantry, with Assistant Surgeon, a guy by the name of Paulding, they were among the first to discover the scene at the Little Bighorn, and this young physician was ordered to assist, and at first they used hand litters to remove the wounded and the dead, but this didn't work out, so again they turned to the mule litters and the travel, and eventually they moved these guys out to the mouth of the Little Bighorn, where the steamer, the Far West, waited to take the wounded and, I guess, whatever they could back to civilization.
Oh my goodness!
So that's kind of the story of some of our Army doctors and how brave they were and the amazing things they did under fire.
Did they?
It's not unlike what happens World War I, World War II, Vietnam, all of these places.
Yeah, now listen, did they believe at that juncture in history about disinfectants? Did they believe in disinfecting the wound after they had probed? Did they use certain items, whether it was whiskey or whatever? Did they disinfect the wound?
It doesn't say anything about that, but at this point, I don't think they knew much about that. During the Civil War, they didn't really use anything as far as disinfectants. They would cut the leg off one guy, and they'd throw a bucket of water across the operating table, throw another guy on there. But this was in 1880, in the later 1800s, and I'm thinking by then they probably knew about it, but I'm guessing they probably didn't have access to what they really needed.
I see. I
mean, they didn't have anesthesia, so I'm guessing they, unless they had some whiskey or something, maybe just water. So I'm guessing they probably tried to do some disinfecting as best they could under those circumstances.
Wow. I'll tell you what, we don't realize and appreciate how nice and how comfortable we have it today, do we?
Oh, you think of the emergency room doctors, the things that they've come up with over the years. It's pretty amazing the lives that are saved nowadays.
Doctor, real fast before I run out of time, tell everybody about dr-history.com and how they can go to the website and listen to previous shows. Tell them about that.
We have about between 25 and 30 previously recorded shows on there now at Doctor, and then put the little dash, history.com, and you can just go through and pick out the stories that you want to listen to. We've got everything from Wyatt Earp to Jesse James to Indian athletes, all kinds of different subjects and stories of the Old West. And if you like them, tell your friends and family.
Absolutely. And by the way, we're now being heard in, 35 different countries?
25 different countries. We've had over 8,000 hits. So kind of exciting that we're actually getting out there around the world a little bit.
All right. Well, listen, I've got to run, but Dr-History.com. Dr. History, Dr. Ken Turner, thank you so much, and we'll look forward to next Tuesday.
All right. We'll talk to you later.
God bless, man. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. I love that segment with Dr. History right here on Zeb at the Ranch. Hey, by the way, we've got another segment that really has drawn a lot of listeners, and that's on Thursdays, and that's, of course, Cassia County School Days, brought to you by two wonderful sponsors. First of all, A Child's World at 1308 Overland in Burley. School's right around the corner, and you better get in there and check out all the backpacks just for $10. School clothes arriving daily. And don't forget, too, they've got all the Cherokee and Dickey scrubs, shoes, and medical supplies right there at A Child's World, 1308 Overland in Burley. And the other sponsor of course, our school days in Cassia County, Ambulatory Surgery Center at 1344 Highland Drive in Burley. All you have to do to find out more information is 677-8888. Over 120 outpatient surgeries performed this past month at Ambulatory Surgery Center in Burley, and saving patients hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Please call them today, 677-8888. Ambulatory Surgery Center at A Child's World, bringing you school days in Cassia County. Right now, ladies and gentlemen, we'll take a short break, come back with more in just a few minutes. Don't go away.
And now, back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KVAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb back.
Oh, thank you very much. Coming up next week, the Cassia County Fair and Pro Rodeo, and of course, some of the many merchants that are supporting the Cassia County Fair include Pacific Steel and Recycling at 320 West Main in Burley, 678-2321. Farmers, if you got old implements, they'll come and take them off your yard. That's right. Pacific Steel and Recycling will come and get them for you. And they also take old and used appliances and computers, etc. Great guys to work with at Pacific Steel and Recycling, 320 West Main in Burley. And also our friends at Pickett Equipment Company, 976 East Main Street in Burley, from the Twin Master Edible Bean Combine, the Double Master Plus Side Pole Combine. These folks know bean equipment, and they're selling them worldwide. Pickett Equipment Company invites you to the Cassia County Fair at 976 East Main Street in Burley. Pickett Equipment Company, serving you. Right now, let's go to the telephone line, and we have Cassia County Fair Board member Ryan Sample on the air with us this morning, and we'll say good morning, Ryan. How you doing?
Oh, it's lovely this morning.
No, it's not, Ryan. I haven't got my hay covered up, Ryan.
Yeah, I know. Well, I don't have mine baled, so.
Well, you're probably farther ahead than I am, because by having mine in the stack without a cover, I'm just watching it get wetter and wetter and wetter.
Yeah, have that feeling about it, yes.
Well, now, Ryan, is this your first year on the Fair Board?
No, I was actually on it last year.
Okay, well, now, give us a little insight as to why you want to take all this verbal haranguing and punishment by being on a Fair Board.
I have no idea why I wanted to do that.
But really, you've got a great group of guys over there.
He just says we have to, and he doesn't give us a choice.
Okay, well now, let's say today, of course, just a couple of days before everything kicks off on next Monday, what are your duties as a Fair Board member right now leading up to the fair next week?
We have a long list we're trying to accomplish. We're just trying to get everything cleaned up and ready to go, and the water going, and trying to get everything looking nice.
All right, now let's break this thing down on a day-by-day basis. Next Monday, they're going to be entering all the exhibits. And what's this at 6 o'clock next Monday, an ATV rodeo? What's going on there?
Well, we figured that Oakley has their car races, and Rupert has the lawnmower races, so we came up with the idea to we're going to have motorcycles and ATVs, and we're going to do some barrel racing and some pole bending with them. We have two sets of barrels set up in the arena, and run everybody head-to-head, so you'll be racing against a competitor, and we're going to run through them for the night.
Holy cow, now that sounds like a lot of fun. Are you going to have different age brackets and divisions?
We're doing just different sizes of, the ATVs will be one class, and then there's a 250 class and a 450 class, and we're not really breaking it down to age. We're only going to take the first 26 people that sign up, and then we don't want it to be an all-night affair. We just want to see how it goes, and we're just trying it for this year.
All right. Now, Tuesday is a big day next week, and, of course, at 8 o'clock in the morning, you're going to be gorging yourself on all kinds of pastries and eggs at the Queen and Princess breakfast, right?
Yes, we'll be at the Queen's breakfast.
All right. And then give us kind of a synopsis about the rest of the day on Tuesday, leading up to the big concert.
Well, we go to the Queen's breakfast, and then there's a few things that go on that day, and then just the concert's our main thing that night we had to get ready for.
Now, Chris Cagle is going to be the featured entertainer this year at the concert, and this guy is good. He's had a lot of hit records. He should really pack everybody in there. What about tickets? Are there still tickets available?
Yes, we still have tickets available, and they can get them either they can go online or they can come in here to the fair office. We're selling them here at the fair office also.
Okay. And it starts at what time? 8 o'clock?
Starts at 8 o'clock, and it'll be a good show. We actually, since we booked him, they gave us some tickets. We went and seen him in Wendover. It's a good show, and he likes to get the crowd involved, and he'll stick around afterwards and sign autographs for about anybody that wants to stand in line.
All right. Now, I know, Ryan, that Wednesday's going to be another busy day next week on the 13th because you've got the great big Cassia County Fair parade starting at 10:30. Why don't you tell us the parade route, and are you still taking entries?
I have no idea on the entries. You have to talk to the parade committee on that part. And but the parade route goes down Overland to Main and then back over to the fairgrounds down Main Street.
Okay. Now, what about the carnival this year? Have you got a big carnival?
Yeah, we've got the same carnival we've had. Brown Amusements is here again. I don't know all the details on the Buddy Day and all that we've been asked. We have. If you want to pre-buy your tickets, we have tickets down here at the office.
All right, now
asking about them. So.
A lot of things that people enjoy are going through the various exhibits at the fair, and then they like to sit down and listen to some of the entertainment at the free stage gazebo. How's that going to run this year?
Well, since Gary Bench passed, we're limited it to one stage this year. There's going to be the only one stage that the hypnotist and the vendors will be out there for the entertainment. It'll just be on one stage this year. We're going to try and put some more picnic tables and sitting areas, kind of where that other stage was.
Okay.
Have it covered so people can sit and eat and enjoy the fair.
All right. Now at 7 o'clock on Wednesday night, you've got a team ranch sorting, and that seems to be a big event for the fair.
It's a big event, and it's a free admission, and one of the things you can come down here and do for free, and it's well attended, and we have a lot of competitors.
Okay, now on Thursday the 14th, of course, you've got more judging going on, and then also at 1 p.m. on Thursday, the Queen and Princess Horsemanship, and then that night, the big rodeo. So it starts on Thursday night, pardon me.
Thursday night.
Yep, and tell us a little bit about the activities that day.
Thursday night for the rodeo we've joined up with the Man Up Crusade. I don't know if you know anything about that, about the domestic violence. That's that night, plus it's kids' night. It'll be the calf scramble. We got the wild cow riding as always. So when you come to the rodeo that night, make sure and wear your purple ribbon.
All right. Now, on Friday, August 15th next week, we also want to acknowledge the fact that I believe at 1 o'clock you're going to open the gates and have some great pari-mutuel horse racing, right?
And we hope we're going to have some pari-mutuel horse racing. It's talking to all the other fairs. It's been a little tough to get horses, but we're hoping for sure that we got some horse races.
All right. And day 2 of the rodeo is family night and Tough Enough to Wear Paint night. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yep, and a family night.
All right. Now let's take it all the way to Saturday. Early in the morning, you've got a 4-H buyer's breakfast. Tell us about that.
The buyer's breakfast is well supported in our community. We appreciate everyone that comes and helps the 4-H kids, and that'll start sharply at 8 o'clock. There is a breakfast at 7 for buyers, and it's it's a great way to support the 4-H in the community. We get a ton of support from everyone.
Now, Ryan, at 10:30 on Saturday morning, I noticed an event that everybody wants to be the judge of, and that's the Dutch Oven Cook-Off. Man, that's a big event, isn't it?
I don't know for sure if that one... I haven't heard much about that one, so I don't know.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll hit it anyway.
Yeah.
And then also you've got more entertainment during the day, and then at 1 o'clock on Saturday, more of the pari-mutuel horse racing leading up to 8 o'clock with the rodeo at 8 p.m., right?
That's right.
Okay. Now, is there anything else on the docket for the Cassia County Fair that I've missed?
Oh, not that I can remember.
All right. Well,
they are coming at 8 o'clock on Saturday because there's a special presentation to Zeb Bell, isn't there?
That I don't know about, but I'll take your word for it. But I certainly want to wish...
Presentation that night for all the years of service.
Well, thank you. And I just want to extend to you and the entire Fair Board a huge success for this year. And I know that you're busier than a one-armed paper hanger, and I'll let you go. But thanks for taking the time to come on our program this morning. Ryan Sapple, board member of the Cassia County Fair. Thank you.
No, thank you, Zeb.
God bless. Have a good day.
Okay.
Thank you. Bye. Yep, that's coming up next week at the Cassia County Fairgrounds. It is the Cassia County Fair and Pro Rodeo for 2014. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Give me a call. I'd love to visit with you about anything and everything that we've discussed this morning, or if you have something that's sticking in your craw, we'll talk about it a little bit. So give us a jingle on the landline. And holy cow, Gina, is it still raining over there?
Let's see here. No, actually, it's not.
It just started sprinkling again over here.
So that means it's headed my way then.
You know, I told you about George earlier, and George Mass having arm injury. You know, when you work with those power tools, and I know you do a lot of mechanic work and everything, I just urge everybody to be very, very cautious. Our dear friend George Mass really suffered a very, very serious injury to his arm, and it could have been a lot worse than what it was. And so please double check, triple check before you move around power equipment. I just can't stress that enough.
No, you do have to, safety protocol and everything, and sometimes when you're working with tools that you work with all the time, sometimes you just, make a slight mistake, and those mistakes can cost you.
I was blessed one time in a shop class, and it was my stupidity, but I was using a table saw, and I finished, and automatically we were always told, to turn it off before you leave the area or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I turned around, and I remembered something that I put on the edge of the table saw, and I reached for it, and I just caught the sleeve of my shirt, and that was it.
Oh. Scared you, didn't it?
It scared me into the point where I wanted to be like a zombie every time I went to shop class and not move quickly or do anything. And the number one thing in shop class, and it happens in every school, whether it's high school or after graduation and you go to an industrial school, there's always got to be some class clowns in there, and they're going to get somebody hurt. And I urge people, use common sense when you're around those great big power tools.
Please, yes. And, always... just remember the safety protocol, and sometimes when you're doing it a bazillion in one time, it's that one time that's going to get you.
Well, and look at old George. I say old George.
Not that old.
One of my dearest friends.
Yes.
I mean, he's done this stuff for a long, long time, and it just, it just happened.
Sometimes it does, and so I seriously hope that George gets better. I love George and Donna to death, and so I hope that he has a quick break.
You know what bothers me, and I'll talk to you about this before I do the weather. You will drive by, maybe this is something that's not as dangerous as it looks, but you being a mechanic, a shade tree mechanic, you'd understand this far better than I. But you'll drive by people's homes, and they'll have the front tires off of a car, and maybe a couple of little jacks holding that car up, and in the same yard, playing in the same vicinity, are a whole bunch of little kids running around. That scares me to death.
That scares me to death, too. I mean, when you have a car jacked up and everything, that's not where a kid needs to be. Seriously, we don't let Kennedy run around the shop or anything like that. Because there's too many dangers, too many tools. that car, you push that car hard enough, it's going to fall off of its jack.
Yeah.
Especially when they're the tiny little rinky-dinky things, you know?
Yeah, that bothers me. And then the other question I've got for you, and I noticed this on television the other night, I counted up, and there seems to be like over half a dozen of these mechanic shows to where they'll take an old clunker or they'll buy a car and they'll renovate it and everything. What's the big fascination with this all of a sudden on reality TV?
Old school cars are worth a lot of money.
Really?
Yeah, they're worth a lot of money. However, when you watch those, there is a misnomer that you can, get these cars turned around really, really quick. It doesn't work that way. Unless you're working in a shop where you have 10 guys dedicated to one project, sure, maybe you could get it done in a week, but usually it takes months or sometimes years.
What's the show out of Texas where the Gas Monkey Garage or something?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and the guy goes and spends buku dollars every week on cars, whether they're old vintage Mustangs or whatever, and then they quickly turn them and take them to auto auctions around Texas and in the Southwest?
Oh, yeah, because big dollars. Big dollars.
Really?
We've got a phone call.
All right. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb.
Yes, sir.
This is Mike Campbell.
Hi, Mike.
Hey, buddy. How's it going?
Real good. What can I do for you?
Well, this coming Saturday morning at the Burley Airport, the Combat Veterans Motorcycle Association, we're going to have our drawing on the raffle for a $20,000 BMW motorcycle.
Wow.
And somebody's going to win that, and all of the proceeds will, of course, that's what we do is Vets Helping Vets. All of the proceeds are going to be going to helping veterans.
Oh, that's
that
great.
Are disabled and that some of them don't have jobs and they need their families taken care of and things. And that's going to be at between 10 and 10:30 at the Burley Airport this Saturday morning.
Okay.
And I'd like to invite you to come.
Well, I'll tell you what, I think it's a very worthwhile cause, and I don't know who sponsored everything, but to put up that kind of an award, a 20,000 BMW motorcycle, I think that's absolutely fantastic. Somebody's going to win that Saturday morning, right?
That's right, and we only sold 500 tickets, so somebody's going to get a nice motorcycle for a $20 ticket.
All right, and besides that, they're going to be helping a lot of veterans.
That's fact.
Okay. Now, Mike, tell us, is there any other festivity there other than the drawing, or do you want everybody to gather there at about 10 o'clock on Saturday morning? What's the deal?
Well, no, there's not really anything else planned for that morning, but if you show up, I just might buy you breakfast.
Well, I'll tell you what, it sounds fantastic. Thank you for calling in. And would you do me a favor, if I don't make it, call in next Monday and let us know who won everything, would you?
I'll do that.
All right, Mike. Thanks so much. Saturday morning between 10 and 10:30 at the airport, right?
That's right, sir.
All right. God bless. Thank you so much.
You too, buddy.
All right. That is really nice. Somebody is really going to get assisted, and Mike doing a lot for our veterans. A $20,000 BMW motorcycle to be given away on Saturday morning. That's a pretty good prize. Hey, we better have a weather forecast here real quick, and the weather is brought to everybody this hour by Scarro's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome. Oh, they sell taste one bite at a time. Everything they sell is guaranteed, and I'll tell you what, a lot of the local county 4-H sales at the fairs, well, Don and Scarro's, they bought a lot of that beef and a lot of that pork, and they can sell it to you for fair market value. It'll be cut and packaged just the way you like it. So get a hold of Scarro's Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, 324-7657. As I said, they sell taste one bite at a time. Here now, Michael Rogers weather.
Hello, everyone. Michael Rogers for Zeb and the Ranch. You got about close to half inch on the ground at the Twin Falls Airport as far as precipitation in the form of rain. You're still going to get a lot of it. You have a flood advisory. You have a flash flood watch in effect from 9 o'clock tonight. and that rain is going to continue along with the coolest temperatures. Temperatures as far as the daytime high for today, you're not going to see the 90s. You're going to see pretty much the upper 70s going to the low 80s. Other than that, enjoy the weather, Zim. What do you got?
Thank you, Michael. Brought to everybody by Scarrows Meats. Don and the rest of the crew at 331 North Road, Jerome, 324-7657. Selling taste one bite at a time. Gina, we've got a couple of minutes left. We invite phone calls at 436-2244. Yeah, I'm giving Scarrow's number. Yeah. They're going to love getting all those calls. Yeah, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I was going to ask you a question. You know, a lot of people don't realize the residual effect that someone like Mama Obama and others that are trying to change the way we eat and denigrate some of the fast food restaurants, etc., they don't realize the residual effect that it has on the communities and also families. And I watched a story last night, and I'm kind of a big old softy that's got to carry a handkerchief and wipe the tears, but I was watching a story about the Ronald McDonald houses and places where families can stay while their children are going in for cancer surgeries, etc., and it just made me realize, you know, it's so easy for these liberal left loonies to go out and denigrate everybody, but they don't realize that they're also hurting families with their denigration.
They are, you know, and, well, I don't have a lot of respect for this whole administration, what they're doing across the board. But, you know, to attack the fast food industry so heavily like they have been, the entire fast food industry is not a bad thing. I mean, people go out, they have a meal, and like what McDonald's does with the Ronald McDonald House, a portion of their proceeds do go to the Ronald McDonald House, and people donate to that all the time, and that is a good resource for families to have. And so when the Obama administration comes out and, you know, just trying to slam the fast food industry as a whole, they don't take into consideration the big picture of what that industry does for so many others in the community.
I think that the fast food industry, and of course this is just my opinion, I believe that they need to be much more on offense. I think they need to be much more pugnacious in their approach, and they need to let the public know your personal responsibility is absolutely got to remain at the forefront, and not the government telling you what you can eat and what you can't eat. I know myself personally last week, we stopped into a couple of fast food restaurants purely out of necessity because we couldn't get home to get a dinner. And it's not that we make a habit out of it. It didn't hurt us one iota. It didn't cause an extra increase in our girth. It didn't do anything. And that's why I get so obsessed with people that have the personal responsibility. If they want a cheeseburger, fine. If they want to order fries, fine. If they want a milkshake, fine. They're not making it a personal 9 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and then snacks in between. They're just treating it with their own personal responsibility, and I'm sick of the denigration of the fast food industry.
Well, you know, and it's just a ploy for our government to get more control into our lives, and because, well, according to the government, we can't make any good decisions for ourselves, so they must make them for us.
And when I saw this story about all the good, and it wasn't just the McDonald's Corporation, it was many, many others that are involved in the community and helping families and everything, it just made me all the more bitter that we live in a society that is so quick to have everything the way the left wants it and the way that they think we should live, and it just made me infuriated that people have put up a lot of time and money and resources to try to help other people through various fundings.
I know. Okay, we've got a quick phone call.
Okay, thanks, Sheena. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, they go with that stuff, and Michelle Obama and all that stuff tells me what to eat. I wouldn't do it, lady, because I'll set the alarm off.
Well, Al, you know what we're saying is correct, though.
I know. It's terrible. It's none of her damn business what we eat.
That's exactly right.
Mess things up for the school kids.
Unfortunately, our public education, our schools with their meals, I feel sorry for the kids. They're not, in my opinion, getting anywhere close to the right amount of nutrition. They're not getting what they want to eat. It's turned into a disaster. It's turned into a waste, and I think it's going to get worse next year.
Okay, well, get the boat out. We got more coming.
All right, Al, thank you so much. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Don't forget, too, the best tire value in the industry at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. All 7 working for you. Yep. I'll tell you what, the best brake service. I know firsthand. Professionally trained technicians, over 30 years experience, best brake warranty, premium quality parts. These folks know brakes. Stop in today and see any one of the 7 locations and make sure that when you say, whoa, you're going to come to a stop. You better believe it. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family over in Paul, John on Poline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley, the very best in brake service. All the tires, all the shocks and struts, the front end alignments, the batteries, it's all there at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Stop in and see them today. I hope I get over this little cold. Tomorrow on the program, we have my dear friend Doug Johnson is going to be on at 9:06, and then at 9:30 we're going to have in Indianapolis, Indiana, Dave Bigot coming on the program. I am trying to catch, and I can't find him, Senator Dean Cameron. Senator Cameron, if you're within the sound of my voice, I have been trying to call you to no avail. I'm going to try to get him on the program, and a couple other folks too, so don't miss tomorrow morning's program. 8:06, we'll saddle the horse and ride for 3 hours to 11 right here on Zeb at the Ranch. Let's see, I had one other news note that I needed to put forth. Yeah, here it is. Hold on just a second. The weekly Team Open Series at the Jerome County Fairgrounds will not be held this week, put on by Dave Zanino. Weather permitting, they're going to move it up to Cary at the Cary Rodeo Grounds on Thursday night. Sign up at 6:30, rope at 7, 3 for $20 draw pot, enter up to 6 times. So once again, there will not be the Jerome County Fair Team Open tomorrow night on Wednesday at Jerome, but it will be going up to Cary on Thursday night, starting at 6:30, sign up, rope at 7. There you go. And if for more information, you can call my old buddy Dave Zanino at 431-1263. Got to get out of here. Lunchtime for me. Have a good day. The way things were, the way things ought to be. We'll see you tomorrow morning.